Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. And today we're getting into some unnerving confession threads, and oh boy, these are some of the most unhinged, depressing, and just downright disturbing confession threads I have ever read before. So you're gonna want to make sure to stick around, and I appreciate you stopping by. It means the world. And make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. And all of these confession threads are from Reddit, and oh boy, does Reddit have some disgusting and disturbing confessions. So just trigger warning right now, because these are really disturbing and heavy, and just like I said before, kind of depressing. So just a quick trigger warning now, but this video will be long enough already, so sit back, relax, grab a drink, and grab a snack. And without further ado, let's get into some unnerving confession threads. In 5th grade, I pushed a girl in a monkey cage enclosure and ripped the skin of her arms off. I attended an elementary school that is near to a small park where there were about 10 exotic animals like hawks, snakes, and monkeys. It's basically a small zoo. We usually wait there for our school service to arrive. We were just sitting around the bird cage-like enclosure of this aggressive monkey that we were making fun of and waiting for the school service to arrive. When the school service arrived, we all stood up and raced to the school service front seat. I knew that I won't be first, so I pushed the girl who's in front of me. She tripped close to the cage. The monkey got startled and went crazy instantly. The monkey grabbed her arm and ripped her skin off in one bite. It is the gnarliest thing I ever saw. Her face turned pale white, I think because of the shock and loss of blood. We carried her out of the park while she and some of us were stained with her blood. An old guy who was working in the park sees us and immediately carried her and called an ambulance. The day after that, the monkey is not in the park anymore, and we have a new school service driver. Edit. This happened in the Philippines. I'm living in Canada now. And for those people who keep telling me this is fake and making this up for karma, which I don't know what that's for, I hope you guys are right. I made this account to find this movie in the subreddit called Tip of My Tongue and got a recommendation for this subreddit. I saw people in here posting horrible stuff that they've done, so I tried my best telling mine. I get that I'm getting so much hate for this. What I did was horrible, and I really wished I'd make it up to her. She got a pretty messed up centipede-like keloid scar on her arm without knowing that I am the one who pushed her. And now let's get into some of the top comments. One user says, "Damn, did you get in trouble, or did no one find out that you pushed them? Did the girl know it was you?" And the OP replied and said, "I didn't. They all thought it was an accident and blamed it all to the monkey and the school service driver for being late and irresponsible." I took back my cheating ex just to F with her head. My ex and I had been dating for 2 years when I realized she was the woman I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. We never fought or argued. We got along swimmingly. I trusted her implicitly and felt she was as good as it was ever going to get. I bought a ring she had gone out of her way to fawn over and planned on asking her to marry me after we got back from vacation. I even called her dad and asked him to have lunch with me so I could ask for his permission to marry his daughter. Mere days before I planned on proposing, she suddenly stopped returning my calls and texts. We never really went more than a day or so without speaking, so I decided to stop by her house after work to check on her. We had keys to each other's houses, and it wasn't out of the ordinary to let ourselves into the other's house if we needed to. Her car wasn't there, and an SUV I didn't recognize was in the driveway. I let myself in with the intention of leaving her a note to call me. When I opened the door to her bedroom, I heard the shower running and her voice coming from the bathroom. I froze when I realized I heard a male voice as well. I took a couple steps into the room and realized they weren't speaking. They were panting and moaning. I heard her trademark pleasure noises. I'm not going to get into what he said, but basically that. I was listening to my girlfriend having intimacy with another man. While I had no intention of confronting them, I still wanted to see it with my own eyes. So I walked to the open door of the bathroom and looked into the mirror that faced the shower. Sure enough, there she was, cheating on me. I left. Almost as soon as I get home, she texts, "Hey, sorry, I've been out of touch. I've been staying at my mom's because I was sick." I ignore her calls and texts for a couple of days and return the ring before I finally confront her in person. She loses it. She calls me a stalker, says I invaded her privacy and she's glad she cheated on me because I'm such a POS. She won't answer me on how long it has been going on or who he was, so I left. Fast forward several months. My ex is in a relationship with this guy, and I'm casually seeing a younger girl I really like, but I know I have no long-term future with her. She's drop-dead gorgeous, witty as hell, has an insatiable appetite for intimacy, and she's an incredible cook. The only downside is she's a huge party animal. Doesn't matter what day of the week it is or what time she has to get up in the morning, she's getting staggering drunk and doing booger sugar like it's her job. She never pressures me to get serious or commit, so I figure I'll ride it out until the endless partying gets on my nerves. After finding out I'm seeing someone, my ex starts blowing up my phone, apologizing and begging me to take her back. She says it was a stupid mistake. She said I worked too much and didn't pay enough attention to her, but she's never stopped loving me. She said being with someone who doesn't appreciate her helped her realize I'm the best thing that ever happened to her. I don't want her back in the slightest. The minute I saw the person she was with, cheating on her, I was done with her. I've spent months being heartbroken over breakups before, but for some reason, actually seeing her infidelity helped me instantly move on. Not to say there weren't a few sleepless nights or wild-ass benders, but I didn't sit around pinning for her. As far as I was concerned, she was trash and I was over it. I initially ignored her, but decided that she has presented me with a premium opportunity to exact some revenge. I call her back and tell her I'm willing to talk, but give no indicator on which way I'm leaning in terms of reconciliation. I arranged to meet her at a park near her house and show up 15 minutes late. She's sweating bullets, chain smoking, visibly trembling, upper lip quivering while she begs for forgiveness. At this point, I didn't really have a plan in place. I just knew that I was gonna mess with her, so I let her beg. I eventually cut her off and asked, "How can I ever trust you again?" "She'll earn it back," she said. "She'll work tirelessly to regain my trust, and she'll show me how important I am to her." I'm intrigued to see how far I can push her, so I tell her I'm willing to give it a shot, when in reality, I'm just scheming ways to make her feel like total crap about herself. She invites me back to her place, where she basically tears off my pants as soon as I cross the threshold and starts doing some intimate things to me. We have intimacy. She's always liked it rough, really rough. And then they get super duper freaky, and the OP says she couldn't be happier. She falls asleep and I sneak out. I check my phone and have a booty call text from Party Animal. So I tell her to meet me at my place. We get roaring drunk and have intimacy. In the morning, I walk her out and see that there's a piece of paper taped to my windshield. It's from my ex. It says, "Just wanted to tell you how much I love you. Have a good day." When I realized she came over to leave me a love note while I was in bed with another woman, I feel an immense sense of satisfaction. So I kept it up for a couple of months. I never told Party Animal that I was having intimacy with my ex, but I got the feeling she wouldn't really care. One of my friends said he saw her at this bar, making out and eventually leaving with some dude. So I figured she was doing the same thing, and it didn't really matter. I never outright told my ex I was having intimacy with anyone else, but occasionally I dropped some non-too subtle hints about my affection for Party Animal. Since she was playing the penitent role, she wasn't in a position to accuse me of anything, or even show signs of discontent. I took it up a notch. I started making X buy my groceries, cook me dinner, take my car to her father's auto detailing shop and get my car cleaned, run my errands, and have intimacy on command. I was cultivating a sadistic side of me that I didn't really know existed, and I was pushing it to an extreme that eventually made me feel too guilty to continue. As the smacking and hair pulling had become rote, I got into the habit of putting her in uncomfortable positions during intimacy, and stuff that you only see in adult videos and think no one does that in real life. If she didn't like it, she never let on. She did it all for me, grinned and bore it. One night she came over, made me dinner, and packed my gym bag for the morning. Then we had intimacy. She broke down and cried during. She sobbed and said, "I want to be your wife. I want to be yours forever." When that line sunk in, I realized I had tortured her enough, but not before I used it as an excuse to end it with her. I acted shocked, said that was too much too soon and that she was suffocating me. Told her to go home and I'd call her when I was ready to see her again. She was shaking with long, racking sobs, and she begged me not to leave her. Pangs of genuine guilt were prevalent as I realized I had really just taken this too far, and my ego had gotten out of control. I never spoke to her again. She attempted to get a hold of me incessantly for a couple of months, stopped by the house for a few times, luckily never when I was home, and even showed up at my job asking to speak with me. But I managed to avoid every attempt, and eventually she gave up. And she got back with the person she initially cheated on me with. They're engaged now. Party Animal and I had a bit of a falling out when I decided I couldn't keep up with her maniac partying, but we eventually became very good friends. No matter how much I may have thought so at the time, X didn't deserve what I did to her. I surprised myself with how much pleasure I took in hurting her, and it eventually started to sicken me how sadistic I was acting. I can't necessarily say I'm proud of myself, but at least a little part of me was satisfied. And now let's get into some of the top comments. One person says, "Holy crap, dude." Another user says, "Stuff like this just scares me." Someone else says, "Damn, dude, I'm all for revenge to a lying and cheating girl, but man, it totally sounded like you went too far. The fact that she didn't give up on pleasing you for as long, despite how much you were torturing her, kind of says something on her part, or at least, in my opinion. It kind of sounds like she tried as hard as she could to repair the relationship, but you wouldn't let her." I do not want my H/opiate addicted sister to recover. My sister was always just a sad person. I can remember this from when we were young. I don't think I fully processed the depths of it, but I noticed then, and the more I think of it as an adult, the more obvious and the sadder it is to realize. She started sneaking alcohol at 13, and by 16 was drinking and smoking weed daily, with occasional uses of pills. Then at around 19, she got into a bunch of other sort of pills, and by 21, she was a full-blown H addict. At 24, she got pregnant with my nephew, Tommy, not his real name. and stayed clean through her whole pregnancy and had him. Despite almost a decade of various addictions that had done a bit of damage to her body, he was healthy and happy. She and Tommy were fine for about 3 months, but she got back into the painkillers, and eventually, H. Luckily, my mom caught it early, and instead of getting the courts involved and all that drama, we all agreed my mom would take the baby in, and she could have him back when she was sober for a full year. Well, my mom was older and stressed at work as a nurse at an understaffed hospital. And because I was home after graduating college with no job, I ended up doing almost all the work raising him from 3 months on. I even put off getting a job to be with him. I eventually got a job and started saving up to move. My job had discounted childcare, a huge perk, so we decided it made the most sense to take Tommy with me, about 2 hours from home, because it would be too expensive for my mom to pay, and my sister still wasn't sober. I have now had Tommy for almost 7 years. I know he is not my son, but he is my son. I'm so attached to him, it is unhealthy. I love him more than anything. He is my best friend. I feel deeply bonded to him. There are no words to describe how much I feel about this boy. We've done everything together for 7 whole years. Literally every day. I have never gone more than 5 or 6 hours without him, and that's only since he started school last year. If I'm being honest, I know this is unhealthy. Even if he were my own biological son, I'm still sad and scared. My sister has been sober 8 months, which is about as far as she's ever gotten. I want her to be healthy and happy, but I don't want to give Tommy back if she makes it to the full year. She's starting coming up to my place for weekends, and I know she wants him back. That is what is keeping her in this fight for sobriety, but it is killing me on the inside. I need him. I will pray for her. I want her to be happy. I feel terrible. I'm not wishing for her failure, but I know deep down I don't want her to be sober so that I can keep Tommy with me. It makes me feel like a horrible person to feel this way. I love him so much. I love her so much. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, that's some brutal honesty. Another user says, maybe she can move in with you and you could both co-parent Tommy for a while. If it is a good living situation, then no need to change. But it doesn't work, then at least you tried. Children need stability. And is it really the best thing for Tommy to move him to a new school and have him move into a new house and with a new guardian all at once? And someone replies and says, I was thinking the same thing. Kid getting stability and support from OP. The mother has a helping hand raising the kid and someone to help avoid temptation. Someone else says, thankfully your nephew is old enough to know the difference between normal behavior versus a junkie's behavior and can tell someone if she begins using again. In a perfect world, mom will stay clean and give her son the best possible life. However, the same desire/need for her to be high and forsake her son at 3 months will probably reel its ugly head again. Support your sister and nephew by encouraging her sobriety and staying a constant in his life. Sadly, the odds are in your favor that you will continue raising him. And someone else says, file for custody or call a lawyer and see what options you have. You are that child's parent and all he knows. Mom can be the fun aunt. It is not in his best interest to be taken from his parents to go to an unstable environment. Sorry, but the odds are against her, statistically speaking. And someone replies and says, minute OP is getting lawyers, social workers, courts, or police involved, that is the minute she can kiss her family goodbye. Seriously, people. Learn to settle your problems inside your house. And someone else says, agreed, OP, at least speak to a lawyer to learn what your options are. And then finally, someone says, You are Tommy's parent. Your sister has never been there for him. She selfishly chose drugs over her child for many, many years. A new attempt to get sober does not change that. If your sister really loves Tommy, then she needs to understand how devastating it would be for a young child to be torn away from the only parent he's ever known. She needs to put his needs over her own wishes and leave him with you. Perhaps she could have visitation with him at your house. You don't need to stick to an agreement that someone else made about when she could have him back. And someone else agrees and says this: I was scared to say it like this because I understand addiction can be insanely hard, but I think that OP is 100% this kid's father, and the sister shouldn't be able to just take the kid back. And this was the only post we have ever received from the OP, and that is just such a heartbreaking situation. And I wonder what ended up happening, and I wonder if the OP kept custody of the boy, or if the OP's sister ended up getting custody, or did it tear apart their relationship, or did it strengthen it and they did a co-parenting situation? I mean, that is such a hard situation, and I really hope they were able to figure it out, and I hope the little boy was able to grow up in a good environment, and the OP's sister was able to get clean. But who knows if the best scenario happened or if the worst scenario happened. Who knows, but I just hope everyone involved is doing better now. I abused someone when I was 18, and now I am terrified to live and be me. Strap in. This is going to be a long one. These are many confessions rather than one instance. Hello, guys. I need to write about my life, or my head will eventually explode. I am 26 male, trying to piece together what made life so subjectively intolerable to live up to this point. I've been hiding my true self and feelings for a long time now. After about 6 years of therapy, first for depression and now for addiction to adult videos and social anxiety, I found out that I deeply believe I don't deserve to get better, hence the lack of improvement in mental health. I wondered why things weren't getting better. Now I believe I know. Before you jump to conclusions such as everyone deserves to get better, I would like to list out experiences I've had, decisions I made, and actions I took so you can decide for yourself with more context. I deeply hope that this turns out useful for someone else, although I don't quite know how that should be the case. And honestly, there is a faint hope left I might be able to forgive myself and finally feel better. It is the dark reality of my life. Something more disturbing than a usual post perhaps, but here goes nothing. A quick warning. I will mention things that some may find disturbing. This text contains themes of SA, taboo, addiction, shame, and so on. Anyways, let's get into it. When I was a young kid, I couldn't sleep. I was scared. So I walked up to my parents' room and asked if I could sleep in their bed. After some back and forth, they gave in, and they allowed me to sleep in their bed. A little later, lights out and eyes closed, my parents had intimacy right beside me. I couldn't see anything, but I could feel them moving, hear the sounds. I didn't know what to make of it, but this memory stuck with me to this day. Maybe I was traumatized back then. I don't know. Anyhow, it set me on a trajectory very unfitting for a child. This trajectory looks as follows. In primary school, we had some teacher talk about intimacy for the first time. I vividly remember how fascinated I was. I was in 4th grade. Her description on how two people do it and whatever stuck with me. Maybe a bit too enthusiastic for an adult talking to kids, at least in hindsight, but it indeed was part of the curriculum. They wanted to teach us early so no one would get pregnant in high school. Around the same time, I remember my parents watching a movie. At the foot end of their bed, a TV was propped up on a box. It was a normal evening after all, and I wanted to join them in watching the movie. My parents tolerated me being there, so I watched the movie with them. It was about a brother and a sister knowingly having a romantic relationship. A weird type of drama, but I don't remember much of the film besides its premise. Looking back, it was quite inappropriate for a kid. Again, it stuck with me, and with that, an idea was born. Maybe I could try that with my sister. This idea was cemented in my brain. My sister was 2 years younger than me at the time. I remember asking my dad a day or two later, is it okay for a sister and a brother to marry? He answered that it is not, and that indeed it was illegal for brother and sister to marry. I knew back then that this is not okay in some way. I started talking to my sister, telling her about this thing called intimacy and the feelings it supposedly produced. I used words not unlike to what our teachers told us about and what I took away from the movie. For weeks I talked to her, but mentioned that it was something she couldn't talk about to anyone. The manipulation by me seems shocking looking back. And then the OP gets into some gross details which I will not read, but basically they just escalate it further. And anyways, let's continue on. The OP says, a few days after this experience, some girls a little older than me came up to me at school. They called me out for what I did to my sister. They said I was disgusting and a weird creep. My secret was out. Of course, my little sister wanted to share her exciting thing with her friends, and those friends then mentioned it to their friends, and so on. The shame. Oh, the shame I felt. I hid behind bushes, got quiet in class. I usually was the troublemaker, sat in my room at home and worried my parents would find out. I knew I would leave this school to go to secondary school early. Was a typical gifted kid, so I changed schools 2 years early, and the summer vacation was approaching. I already passed the test to get in. At a young age, I told myself, we will start a new life and no one will ever know. This is something you can never tell anyone. This left a scar on my soul I can hardly put into words, and actively I created the situation. How despicable. My parents did eventually find out. They came into my room and confronted me. I don't remember much of that day, or all the days around this time for that matter. I do remember my mom and dad talking in the kitchen afterwards. My door was open and I could hear them. My dad took the side of, kids do that sometimes. It is not talked about much, but it happens regularly. It was just plain. My mom was taking a different side. There is something seriously wrong with him. What is wrong with him? To add some context, my mom used to shame me all my life. Every time I cried at a gathering or was too loud or disrupted anyone, she would reprimand me and afterwards would say, "You're weird. Everyone was weirded out by you. They're just too polite to say to you, but I spoke to them afterwards and they couldn't believe how you acted." Now, this wasn't something rare. It was an everyday thing. I was also weird because I was best in class, so many kids treated me with disdain. I knew that most kids weren't interested in what I found fascinating, and they let me have it sometimes because of that. Even my friends sometimes bullied me, although nothing crazy. As an adult, I got diagnosed with ADHD, so you can sure believe as a kid, I wasn't the most quiet chap. I too cried easily and got angry pretty quickly. Naturally, I believed my mom was right. She knew I believed her, and she pulled that lever whenever she could. My dad was very timid but warm. Sometimes after I got scolded, he came up to me and tried to comfort me. He was an alcoholic. I remember the smell of beer and cigarettes in his breath, but at least he loved me. Somehow. So I was a weirdo, and nothing I did or said would have a positive impact to our family, despite my academic achievements, but even then, I was still a weirdo that just couldn't quite get at what was wrong with him. Even as early as very young, I concluded that my family would be better off without me. I thought I deserved to no longer be here. I tried to commit S-word. I ran away regularly, crying myself to sleep. I was so sorry for causing everyone so much distress. I ruined gatherings, did weird stuff with my sister, and even my friends knew about me in school. Or so I believed when I was a kid. Subconsciously, I believe this to this day, more abstractly and more intrinsically, but still. I then started watching adult videos. Puberty was early and hit hard when it came to exploration. I've already seen the kind of softer adult videos, and after midnight, these commercials for adult videos would come up. I started watching those, and when puberty hit, I would do stuff to those. Quickly, I moved onto my computer and soon progressed to real adult videos. Every day, I watched adult videos, even when my sister was sleeping in the same room. Sometimes I'd still climb in her bed and, touch her. It sickens me to admit this. I didn't really learn from the first time, did I? That happened maybe 3 times. From that age onwards, nothing happened anymore towards my sister. What can hold a younger teen responsible for? I don't know, but it sickens me what my sister had to endure. I might have traumatized her for life. I am so incredibly sorry for what I have done. She was an innocent girl, and I poisoned her life. And things don't end here. My adult video habit stuck. I got used to watching it daily, and I got desensitized quickly. I progressed towards more sibling love themes. I even watched and did stuff to people having intimacy with animals at multiple points. It's disgusting to admit, but I'm wrestling with the reality of those decisions and experiences. I even had my dog, my family dog, lick my you-know-what. This was all during puberty. There were many interests I developed at that time. I am desperately trying to blame it on puberty, prior trauma, and the interests adult video addicts experience, but I find my past behavior so reprehensible that I cannot find peace in that explanation. And on to the last confession. I SA'd my first girlfriend. When I was around 18, I met my first girlfriend. We started getting intimate and I had a pretty inexhaustible libido. My adult video habit was running rampant too, like it has since I was young. Sometimes my girlfriend didn't want to have intimacy. I ended up doing it anyways when she was asleep. She woke up but endured. I believe this is blatant SA. R word. It happened many times. It stopped and we talked about it too. I never held her down or forced her physically. Not that that makes it anything less an R word, but I want to emphasize that detail. The sheer act of assaulting her like that is enough of a crime against humanity on its own. We talked about that phase afterwards, even when we were still together. She wasn't angry, but clearly pointed out she wouldn't tolerate such behavior anymore. That's when it stopped. How courageous of her, and how kind despite the severity of my actions. She was truly a good soul. And yet I violated a human being like that. We stayed together after that for a while. We ended up breaking up eventually, although my aforementioned actions weren't discussed as causes when we split. Maybe she moved on. Maybe it was too painful to bring up again. Today, I am terrified of people, especially of women. I have trouble buying groceries or taking the tram since the panic borders on unbearable. I can hold a job, but I cringe at myself talking to my colleagues and my need for validation. I make every single encounter intimate, men or women, friends or coworkers. Not as in taking their clothes off in my mind, but everything feels way too intimate. A hug makes me cringe because two bodies so close to each other makes me feel uncomfortable. It is so tiring. It feels like a virus in my brain. Like a parasite. I think about committing S-word from time to time still. I go to therapy and try every day to better myself, but lately, I feel tired of fighting. Maybe I blew it. This attempt at life. I work on getting this adult video thing under control and hope that maybe one day I'll have a happy family, but I don't think I deserve that. None of what I've done I would do again. I have no trouble controlling my urges, or rather, I don't have the urges. More recent relationships were emotionally troubled, but not in a manner mentioned before. I think I am a normal adult by now. I almost feel like I am stuck with the past of someone that isn't me anymore, yet the guilt and the shame remains. I don't think I'll be able to beat my depression, anxiety, and addiction before I let go of all of that, but then again, I don't know if someone who did what I did deserves anything but ridicule. That's it for now. Thank you for your attention. If you have questions about anything, feel free to ask, and I'll be happy to answer. Edit. Comments pointed out that I left out how these things affected both my sister and my ex-girlfriend. I agree that I provided a very self-centered account, and I am ashamed that I have left them out to such an extent. I responded to many comments where the side of my sister and of my ex-girlfriend find more expression. They are victims in this, and as a perpetrator, I should have given them more attention in this post. They have to carry this weight of my wrongdoings, a fate I can hardly comprehend. I can't tell their story, and any attempt at speaking for them beyond what they personally told me would be again violating their boundaries. I edited this post many times to correct some of the language, like I think I assaulted to I assaulted, as to not downplay my actions. I also added some additional information here and there. And now let's get into some of the top comments. One user says, "Keep going to therapy. Don't come to Reddit for advice or opinions. I think most people are not qualified to give healthy or useful commentary here." And the OP replies and says, "Thank you for your comment. I learned through therapy that the internet is not real life, that most lives are filled with more regret and mistakes than is apparent just by looking at people. I'll keep going to therapy, of course. I feel like I failed at being a decent person so early in life that I blew it. I still don't believe I deserve to get better, which ironically makes therapy way more complicated. But then again, should someone like me forgive themselves? Anyhow, I appreciate the comment you left and will remind myself that Reddit is often polarizing, knowing full well my post attracts a strong reaction by some. If the truth of my life does that, so be it." Another user says, "I don't know what to say. This is really, really bad, but guilt is good. Therapy." Someone else says, "It's all a bit much, but it takes a lot of courage to talk about all that. The important thing is that you're aware of your mistakes and that you're continuing with therapy so it doesn't happen again." Someone else says, "God damn." And someone else says, "Holy crap, seek serious help and don't talk to your sister about what happened unless she brings it up. As someone who's a victim of a similar situation, if my abuser tried to talk to me about it, I would very much not be okay. You are a R-wordist. What you did to your girlfriend was R-word, and what you did to your sister was horrible. You should get into therapy right away and stay the F away from women." And the OP replies and says, "I've stayed in therapy for years now and will continue to do so. I stay in contact with my sister. I know that I will not violate her integrity by bringing this up. It is her decision, and I know that. We did talk about our childhood many times. The many bad things that happened in our family was something to not carry or digest alone. We're really close now that we are adults. I am very proud of her. I had relationships after splitting up with my first girlfriend. No problems or urges in those. I also told partners about my past too. I alluded in other comments that making things intimate doesn't mean fantasizing for me. It means that contact towards people feels too intimate for me. Even a hug or a handshake, and it makes me shy away from saying hello to people, for example. Maybe what I've done means I don't deserve to ever have a wife or a family despite having none of the tendencies I used to. I get that perspective, but since I'm a human being, I still desire those things. I will consider your perspective. Thank you for your comment. And someone else says, well, at least you have a working conscience. Now do better and stay away from your sister. I am a peeping Tom who recorded my friend using my toilet. To start, I've always had this interest by watching videos online. It never got so bad to the point of a few weeks ago when I decided to have my friends over to my house. After the date was set, I purchased a couple of expensive cameras to put in my bathroom. When my friends came over, I would interact with them while waiting for one of them to use the toilet. When one of my friends did, I got so excited about it. Once everyone went home, I immediately watched the video on my phone and relieved my lust. After that, I felt shame and guilt, especially because this friend is such a lovely and kind person. I know what I did is horrible and evil, but the lust just keeps coming back, and I keep watching the video over and over and over again. It has been several weeks and I still have the video. I know I should delete it, but the temptation is too strong, and I worry I would feel regret if I delete the video or if I throw away the cameras. And man, that is just disgusting, but let's get into some of the top comments. One user says, this is a huge violation of trust and consent, and also very illegal. You need to confess to your friend and tell them what you did. And the OP replies and says, here's the thing. I know what I did is wrong. However, if I tell her, I fear it'll impact her a lot and also me. I won't pretend to be a saint. I would definitely be worried about my reputation too. But I don't know how to proceed with this. Therapy, I worry that it might not help me and just out me as a perv. I committed this crime. I understand the impact this would have over my victim, but the fear of it impacting my life seems higher to me. I am selfish. I wish I did not have these tendencies in the first place, simply because of the stress and fear I go through even recording it. Then the money spent on the equipment, and finally for putting my friend in this position. And then someone replies and says, at least delete the video and don't do it again? How can you look at that friend in the eye ever again? Super gross guy. And someone else says, F your reputation, lol. You violated someone. And someone else says, so you're a predator. Got it. Get help and stop abusing your victims. And someone else says, I can definitely say that you should delete the video and rehabilitate yourself in an indoor group, so that way you can get help needed in your situation. On the other side, I'd also say that if these friends of yours are not over 18, then that just makes it worse. Whatever age you are, it is still vile regardless. Confess to your friend after you help yourself out. And the OP replies and says, she is over 18, yet I agree it is vile regardless. I am trying to muster the strength to delete the video, because the lure is very strong. I need to find a good therapist for this and hope it helps. And everyone else just says delete the video, which totally makes sense, but we don't know what the OP does because the OP's account was banned after this. But God, what a disgusting, gross, and just vile confession. I ruined most of my life by going to prison right out of high school. In 1999, when I was 18 and fresh out of high school, I killed someone, was eventually caught and sent to prison to serve a life sentence. In prison, I was R-worded many times, assaulted and broke multiple bones, Now, 19 and a half years later, after 19 years in prison, I'm unemployed, have severe PTSD, and have nothing but a high school diploma. I feel as if I am worthless. I can't justify myself getting treatment due to myself being a murderer, and I hate myself with passion. I'm nearly 40, and I have ruined my life. I'm halfway through to the retirement age and I have nothing. I'm broke, can't get a job due to having a record, and I have to wait 5 more years to be pardoned and have my record cleared. Edit. Thanks for all the support. For those of you wondering who I killed, it was an old high school bully that affected most of the kids in the school. Guess I thought I was being righteous or doing everyone else a favor by getting rid of him. And now let's get into some of the top comments. One user says, I know the words of any random person over the internet won't change your life in a snap, but I'd like to tell you a story of a friend of mine who is very similar. He also killed someone and went to prison. I don't know how long he served, but when he was released, he re-met my mom. They were high school friends and made her happy during her and my stepfather's divorce. And he became my best friend too. He was the wisest person I'd ever known and was more kind than anyone I had ever met. He passed away about 4 years ago, and he left me 2 of his sweaters that he wore often. I wore them to remember how much he helped my mom get through the stress and how he helped me through the psychological and physical abuse I got from my stepdad. So, be the best person you can be. Don't let your mistakes and your bad experiences define who you are now. If you teach others through what you have learned, you may save someone's life, like he did for me. And someone else says, shouldn't have killed someone then. No sympathy here. You're still breathing. Imagine killing someone, going to jail for it, and when you're freed, you feel bad for yourself on how your life is. Is this even real life? 18M. I use booger sugar daily, and it is absolutely destroying me. I started doing booger sugar about 7 or 8 months ago. I started off at festivals with my friends or nightclubs, but now I'm doing it daily the past 3 weeks or so. I knew from the second I used it for the first time that it was my drug of choice. I smoke weed daily, and I've used many other pills and a few others, but none ever clicked with me the same way booger sugar did. I work full time and have a good relationship with my family and friends, and I don't know where this addiction has come from. When I'm not high, I don't crave it, but the second I do a little, I can't stop. I'm doing a lot daily. Sometimes more, sometimes less. It's not really affecting my life too much. I still go to work, I still see my friends, my family, and no one knows about my addiction. My biggest problem is nighttime, where I can't put down the booger sugar. And I work a manual laboring job with an early start, so it's not at all sustainable to be taking booger sugar late at night. It's currently 3 a.m. as I'm writing this, and I'm up for work in about 2 hours. I feel like I'm losing control of my life, but at the same time, I feel happy throughout the day when I'm not using, but also empty. I don't even know how to explain it. It's like 1 minute I'm inside my head thinking about how much I hate this drug and what it's doing to me and how much I want to stop. And then the next minute I'm happy, joking around, full of energy. And then I switch up again and start thinking about doing a lot when I get home. I don't know what to do. I'm using a lot a week, and if I go out to party on the weekend, I'll easily go through a ton throughout the night. I don't know what to do and how to break this addiction, or how to feel about it and how to stop justifying it, and telling myself every night that it's my last time and then going straight back to it the next day. It's messing me up, and I'm just stuck in this vicious cycle with no way out. Thank you to everyone who took their time to read this. I'm not expecting to get anything out of it, I just needed to say it somehow, somewhere. And now let's get into some of the top comments. One user says, 18 and you've been using it daily for 3 weeks? Brother, you can kick this. Or you can destroy your heart, your nasal passages, your wallet, and eventually your relationships. Trust me on this one. And then the OP replies and says, I know how stuff like this ends. Addiction is very common in my family, mainly H. These people aren't a part of my life anymore, but all these things just don't stop me from doing it. I've thought about all the possible outcomes, none positive, and none of them will change my mind. I feel like I'm just stuck in an endless loop. And someone replies and says, seek addiction counseling if you need help. There are free phone lines you can call to. 24 hours non-judgmental. And another user says, there's a 100% chance you will stop doing booger sugar one day. Whether it's because you're dead, or because you've lost everything to addiction, or because you chose to today. That's the part that is up to you. And someone else says, honestly, just dump it and take 2 to 3 days off. Get Gatorade and plan on takeout. Tell people you have the flu. Watch movies, play video games, don't use your brain too much. Shower. You will feel so much better after some sleep. And just rest in your body and brain. You aren't too far in where it's going to take you a ton of time to bounce back. You're young too, so you have that on your side. And someone replies and says, good advice right here. I would also suggest to buy some favorite candies, splurge items, buy all those phone games you've wanted to buy, and so much sleep. Sleeping and giving your brain dopamine rewards from other things can pull a lot of people out of addiction. Sleep, distraction, sleep, eat, distraction, sleep. Addiction is so hard. And someone else says, it took me hitting rock bottom to quit. And someone replies and says, yep, same. Sadly, this is what it takes most people to realize it's a problem. Unfortunately, sometimes it's too late by then. OP, start thinking long-term here. You have to get off this ride while you still can. I was up to around a lot a day at the peak of my addiction. It wasn't until I lost everything and only had my parents left by my side that I finally woke the F up and started on the path of getting clean. It's been 18 years now. Don't let it get away from you. Get it under control ASAP. And then someone else says, addiction therapist here. You're in a good frame of mind to kick this. It's just going to have to come with sacrifices from you. From your explanation here, you're recognizing a lot and identifying how much this has taken over quickly. Sooner, you can get into a comfortable frame of mind to focus on work or healthy alternatives. You can 180 here. If the cannabis helps, stick with it in moderation. Truthfully though, this can be a slippery slope quick for you. I've seen many nasal users building a tolerance, then turn to smoking it, or eventually turn to harder alternatives. Septum can deviate, then your nose is disfigured until you go to a plastic surgeon. The social aspects can be fun and you're young. I understand that. Exercise your discernment and just know there are a lot of negative consequences if you'll continue your use. Reach out to my addiction services in your community. You're legally an adult, so they will respect your privacy. All of the luck to you, lad. You got this. And we have never received another update from the OP, and I really hope that the OP was able to get the help he needed and kick this nasty addiction before it got too late, because as many people in the comment section here said, that it's a slippery slope. And if the OP doesn't get off now, it could get bad really fast. And so hopefully the OP is doing better now and just back to his regular life. I committed a felony over a bike. I have chronic anxiety and a giant fear of my dad. And also, I'm a stupid, rebellious teenager that's stupid. So one night, my friend George and I decide to take out the panel of my window and walk into town for snacks at 4 a.m. Not sure why. We crossed train tracks illegally. We hid from cop cars. It was actually quite fun. The only reason I stopped is because of the reason I'm about to tell you. So we'd done this a good 8 or 9 times, and we'd never been scared or anything. So we thought, let's bring our bikes and we can get snacks faster. And my dumbass didn't bring a lock. So we go into my garage around 2:30 a.m., bring the bikes out through the door, and just barrel down the road. I'm not gonna lie, I felt high. I was sober, and still that was such a good feeling. The brisk wind against my face in pitch black, going full speed on my bike with only streetlights guiding us. So we get to the 24-hour restaurant. For the sake of the story, we'll call it McDonald's. It was a local chain. They have a bike lock in the back, but there were some sketchy looking guys. In retrospect, they're nice guys. I met them later. And me, being the world's biggest idiot, decided to park our bikes out back of a piano store in the single sketchiest alleyway that I have ever seen. So we get our food, whatever. I think the lady thought we were homeless because she gave us free hash browns. Anyways, we get back to the alleyway, and I can't find my bike. So I turn on my iPhone flashlight and point it at my feet. And I swear to God, I have never been more scared in my entire life. The bike was gone. My friend's was still there, but mine was gone. The thief had replaced it with their own, effed up garbage bike that I rode home. So my friend and I went home, and I somehow got to sleep. The next morning, I rode that hunk of junk all the way back into town, and you know what I did? I purposefully fell over, covered myself in dirt and blood, and called my mom. To make it a long story short, I told her that I basically just got grand theft biked and some older dudes jacked our bike. She arrives on scene, calls the police, calls my dad. Dad comes, drives my brother around to see if they can find the little assholes. Policeman takes both me and my friend to make sure our story checks out. Somewhere on this planet, there is a tape recording me confessing to a crime that didn't happen. Somehow, we both kept our story perfect. I filed a false police report. Felony. I have no idea how I wasn't caught. But it still haunts me to this very day. I sabotaged my uncle's life, and now he has nothing. He is a terrible person in general. He is manipulative, abusive, causes family drama, steals from family and friends to feed his drug and escort addiction, and has destroyed property as an intimidation tactic to keep people under his control. I've recently learned that he is severely physically and mentally abusive towards his son and his girlfriend. I called his employer and tipped them off to his drug habits. He lost his job after failing a drug test. I told his girlfriend's family about his physical abuse. They came and got physical revenge and took her back with them. I called CPS anonymously and told them about his relationship with his son. The child has been taken into custody by the state. I heard his girlfriend is gathering evidence to press charges against him. Soon, his freedom will be gone too. And I feel horribly guilty. I destroyed a man's life. What was once righteous is now crippling shame and self-resentment. I'm no better than him. I hurt people too. And now let's get into some of the top comments. One user says, "You didn't destroy his life. He did it himself. Addiction is a disease, but choices are made by us. He could have chosen to get help, stop, or simply don't be violent. He is responsible for his decisions. You just simply brought him to justice faster and possibly saved 2 lives. If anything, you did a really hard task. It's not easy reporting a family member like that. He will more than likely sober up in custody and realize how bad he messed up. If he will change, I don't know. Probably not. But he will sober up in jail, more than likely, and that's already a step to get him help. Someone else says, you are different than him. You hurt him, but you did it in order to save people from his abuse. Protecting innocent people justifies causing that harm. His abuse was not justified. He did not do those awful things for anyone but himself. You saved people. And someone else says, he destroyed his own life with his abusive tendencies and bad decisions. Maybe this will be his rock bottom and he'll turn his life around. My mom has paranoid schizophrenia. I sometimes enjoy using her irrational paranoia to torment her. I do feel bad, but sometimes I cannot help myself. I am 31 years old now and have been her main caregiver since she became ill when I was very young. I won't lie, my life is an utter waste and I am utterly unsuccessful in career, money, relationships, and health, including my own mental health. Her delusions, which were not treated for many years, formed my childhood and instilled in me unhealthy habits and traits, which I cannot be bothered to go into right now. Being a carer for a parent alone for many years has also not been very good in terms of jobs. So much so that I've spent a lot of time in part-time flex jobs, for example, call center jobs. I do love my mom, but I am so resentful of her. But sometimes it overwhelms me. I end up lashing out passively aggressively. One of the main delusions she has is that people and family place curses on her. This evening, she started talking about it, and I got more and more annoyed that I accused her of putting curses on me. She kept saying she would never do that, but I kept going on and on accusing her of it. I couldn't stop. She just cried and left the room, and I felt nothing. I was just glad I could carry on watching TV in peace. There are so many examples that, at the time, I enjoy and get pleasure from, but then after I feel so ashamed. I am otherwise a good carer and look after her and make sure her needs are met, not just physically or financially, but emotionally and socially. The pressure is just too much sometimes. And alright guys, that wraps up some unnerving confession threads, and I hope you found today's video interesting. If you did, please comment down below. I appreciate every single comment and I read every single comment. So comment down below your feedback, criticisms, thoughts, concerns, ways I can improve the videos, etc. I really do appreciate all of the comments. And also make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It really does help so much and helps me make more videos like this. And so I appreciate the support. It truly does mean the world. And finally, thank you guys so much for watching. Your guys' support means the world. And I mean, if you're still watching, you're just amazing. I mean, like, your guys' support is so crazy to me. And you guys are the best. And yeah, once again, thank you guys so much for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, I'm sure you'll enjoy some other videos on the channel. So go check out some other videos on the channel. And all right. Thank you guys so much for watching, and this was Snook, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to the channel, and today we're getting into some insane true Reddit threads, and oh boy, today's Reddit threads are deranged, unhinged, and like the title says, insane. So you're gonna want to make sure to stick around, and I appreciate you stopping by. It means the world to make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. The channel subscriber goal is 1 million subscribers before the end of the year, so please subscribe. And these Reddit threads just have me on the edge of my seat the entire time, so I'm excited to get into it. And yeah, without further ado, make sure you grab a drink, grab a snack, and let's get into some insane true Reddit threads. My husband, 32 male, is convinced I, 26 female, am pregnant. I'm not, but he won't believe me. What do I do? And just a quick warning, this Reddit thread is just very depressing and disturbing, and let's get into it. I'm truly at a loss here. This situation has gotten worrying, and I don't know what to do with it. Since about a week ago, my husband became convinced I'm pregnant. I have no idea why, because I'm not. We haven't even started trying, though we do have plans in the future. We were just making conversation, and yeah, I did mention feeling tired, but that's all. A few hours later, he just came in so excited. I told him I'm not, but he won't let it go. He has made remarks about how happy he is, what a wonderful mother I'll be, what our baby will be like. Not all the time, but it has come up multiple times a day. I told him I'm not. I even took a test because even I started wondering, and it was undoubtedly negative. I showed him and he just got annoyed, said tests can be wrong. He didn't speak to me for the rest of the evening. The next morning, he acted as if nothing happened. When I tell him I'm not, he just kind of shuts me out. I lost my stuff yesterday when we were in bed, and he put his hand on my stomach. Told him he's acting crazy. I'm not pregnant, and his behavior is scaring me. He went to sleep in the guest room after that and left for work early in the morning. I haven't seen him or spoken to him today. I'm just at a loss. I don't know where this obsession is coming from. I even asked him if I gained weight, if that's what has gotten him confused. He assured me I didn't. I'm thinking of contacting his parents or maybe a therapist or something. I honestly don't understand what's happening, and I'm worried about my husband. And then the OP makes a quick update to the post and says, "Thank you all for the replies. I didn't expect all of this. It's been overwhelming and I'm incredibly grateful." He's asleep next to me right now and I keep going through all the comments. My husband is one of the kindest people I have ever met. I promise you all that he's not trying to manipulate me or would do anything to hurt me. But that does make me believe something is really wrong. I'll contact my and his parents in the morning once he's left for work. Maybe go stay with my mom for a bit, though I hate the idea of leaving him like this. I also definitely will make an appointment with my doctor for a blood test. Thank you all for the advice. And now let's get into some of the top comments. One person says, honestly, this is the kind of delusion that could easily lead to him becoming violent. I don't know if he will, and I'm so sorry this is happening to you, but I think that your number one priority needs to be getting out. This isn't a talk to him situation. This isn't a work it out. This is quite literally a run for your life and get someone else to help him afterwards kind of situation. I do not think it is an overreaction to move out with zero prior warning and not tell him where you're going. Then after you're out, call his parents and tell them what's going on. I know you're probably thinking your husband wouldn't do anything like that. He's not violent. He wouldn't hurt you. There are two possibilities here. He is either experiencing psychosis/delusions or he isn't. If he is experiencing psychosis, then this is not your husband. This is some rogue part of his mind that is taking over. His perception of reality is quite literally wrong, and there is no amount of love or care for you that's enough to overcome the fact that what he sees in the world is not what is real. The second possibility is that he's not experiencing any form of psychosis or delusions. This is honestly the scarier possibility in my eyes, because that means he's intentionally trying to manipulate you, probably in order to control you and prevent you from leaving. And he may possibly forcibly impregnate you. And then the OP replies and says, "Oof, this reply hit me hard. I appreciate it a lot. I'm very torn. I love my husband very much and I'm worried about him right now. But I am feeling increasingly uncomfortable at my home as well." And then another commenter says, "To me, this sounds really pretty ominous. I'll tell you why, but I'm going to explain my own background before. I have multiple degrees with a medical and psychology background, and I've written a bit about wartime psychology, prisoners of war, and brainwashing. So yes, this may sound extreme, but there's something about this that genuinely horrifies me. So a conditioning tactic to re-educate prisoners of war is that you insist on an event. Naturally, they're going to be like, what? That didn't happen. So you take something away, insist again, take it away, insist again, take it away, etc. Eventually, the prisoner of war is going to be missing so much stuff, they will eventually be like, oh well, fine. And then you give them something. Then you insist something else, etc. Basically what occurs is this scenario of repeatedly removing and giving quality of life things like comfort, food, stability, is that in the long term, it, number one, trains the person to view the person with the accusations as a key to survival. And number two, it trains the victim to believe anything the individual accuses them of. The reason this only works in wartime circumstances for prisoners is because the prisoner has no choice but to endure it. They can't just leave. So the reason this disturbs me is because his behavior knowingly or unknowingly follows this behavior. He says you're pregnant, insists it, and then diminished happiness. He comes back saying you're pregnant again. You show the test. Now he only withdraws happiness but alienates you by moving to another room and taking away feelings of belonging in your own house. Now he takes his presence away, leaving you alone in your house as a stranger. Yet you know, if he were to say, okay, I am pregnant, suddenly all of that would return. So he insists you're pregnant, takes something away and gives you time to think. Then tries again, you say no, more taken away and more time. Okay, are you going to play along now? The only difference is you are able to leave at any time. But it is actually concerning that if this is a deliberate tactic, it's because he's decided that you can actually not go anywhere. There's actually something really wrong here in my opinion. Not trying to scare you, but either this is on purpose or he has lost a grip on reality and neither are safe for you to be around right now. Edit, I'm no longer discussing my credentials. You can say I work for McDonald's, believe me, I don't actually care. Sorry OP for the long chatter on your thread. If you'd like to discuss in DM, argue or whatever, please send me one. No problem. And then another user says, the first time I got pregnant by my husband, he knew before I did. He had a feeling. Home test said negative, but a blood test showed positive. And the OP responded and said, oh my, that's wild. Either way, I'll meet with my doctor, if only to have some conclusive proof that I am not. And then the OP makes a mini update the next day, and it reads, things escalated yesterday, but I'm with my mom and his parents are at our place. And then one user responds and says, so you are safe? That is a relief. I hope your husband gets the help he needs because it is pretty obvious he needs to talk to a professional. And the OP says, yes. Thank you for asking when responding to, are you safe then? So a very concerning update. But then we get a more in-length update 2 days later. And it reads as follows. Hi everyone. I hope it's okay I post this update. I really appreciate everyone asking if I'm safe, and I am. I wish I could give clear answers, but I can't. Things escalated when I tried to speak to him. Keeping some of y'all's advice in mind, I sat him down and explained to him that I'd love to have kids with him in the future, but that I'm not pregnant right now, and that his insistence worries and scares me. I told him we could go to the doctors together if that would put his mind at ease, or I could take another test in front of him. I was just hoping to snap him out of it somehow. He got very agitated, said many hurtful things, and accused me of being a liar many times, that I'm trying to keep our baby away from him, and so on. Nothing made sense, and I wasn't feeling safe anymore. I knew my husband would never harm me in any way, but that wasn't my husband. Things got worse. He did hurt me, but nothing permanent or even emergency care worthy. I also know that if he was in his right mind, he would have never done anything like this. I called mine and his parents, and I'm now staying with my mom. He did seem to calm down a bit when his parents arrived. I haven't seen or spoken to him since then. His mother, she's an angel, is keeping me posted about everything. We all agree something is very off about him, and we don't know what it is. But he hasn't agreed to getting himself checked out in any way. I don't know how they'll go about it, but they say, and I painfully have to agree, that it's best to keep my distance for a bit, as most of it is aimed at me. I'm safe, so is he. I miss him so much, and I just want an answer as to why he's being like this. I keep trying to figure out if there were signs before, or what I did wrong. Thank you all for the replies. They were a great help. It's so kind you cared to ask if I'm safe. And now let's get into some of the top comments on this update. One user says, "Let's pray it's not drugs, since he refuses to get checked out. I'm so sorry, OP. I hope everything gets better soon. I don't know if going back to him is a good idea though. He physically hurt you." And the OP responds and says, "I do think that whatever is causing this is the reason he hurt. We've been together for some years now, and he's never even raised his voice at me until this." And another user says, "Thank you for letting us know you're safe. I really hope he agrees to get the help he needs, but it is absolutely in your best interest to protect yourself right now. Good luck." And another user says, "Sounds like he has an undiagnosed mental illness or major trust issues. He should seek out a psychiatrist or therapist or both. As others have mentioned, probably best to see a doctor and rule out other causes also." And another user says, "Oh, woo, I am so glad you left. I'm a psych NP, and this situation terrified me on your behalf. He is not himself, and he is not safe for you right now. He needs to be seen by a medical professional ASAP, like last week. It must happen. If he continues to decompensate / get worse, you may have options for involuntary treatment, depending on where you live. It very well could be a physical medical issue causing the behavior, or it could be a mental health crisis. Either way, if he's physically sound and mentally erratic, start with psych emergency services. Are you in the USA? Does your area have a crisis services team? Ours is called Erie County Crisis Services, and they are available 24/7 for crisis calls, and they also will send out mental health professionals to assess someone in the field and see if it's an emergency / involuntary situation. The downside of an organization like this is they're often overtaxed, and when they aren't able to send an agent who is a mental health professional, they will send law enforcement for a wellness check, so not to ignore the situation. You can call the nearest psychiatric emergency room and ask if they have any recommendations. This is another point. There are psychiatric emergency rooms. Most decently sized cities have one. You can call law enforcement, but please be mindful, this choice comes with risk. Especially if you or your husband are people of color, this could be putting his life at risk. If his behavior is dangerous, he could be involuntarily hospitalized or worse, arrested. The best case scenario is getting him to a medical professional now before he ends up in jail and his medical emergency is ignored. So many of my psychotic patients have been arrested, and the delays in care are terrifying. Good luck, OP. Protect yourself first and stay away, but good luck in his long-term recovery and your future reconciliation. And the OP gives us an update 2 days later that says he has apparently agreed to get himself checked out, but I haven't heard anything else. And the OP makes another mini comment 10 days later that says he is in the hospital. Many people were right about it being a medical issue. I'll get more into it at some point, maybe, but first need to see what's going to happen with him. I've seen him a couple of times. Sometimes he's his normal self. Sometimes he can't stand the sight of me. We're managing somehow. And then the OP posts an update the next day, and let's get into it. The update reads, I don't know if anyone will see this here, but you've all been so kind to keep asking whether or not we're okay. I hope I'll reach you like this. I'm going to keep it short. My husband has a brain tumor. A lot of people commented this, and I feel an immense amount of guilt that I hadn't considered it until then. All the headaches and other symptoms in hindsight we had previously dismissed because of a stressful work situation and so on. I'm beating myself up that I hadn't seen it before. A wonderful team of neurosurgeons, oncologists, and other physicians is figuring out the best approach here, if there is one. We'll hear more in the next days. I've spent more time with my husband. Some moments he's his amazing self, others he's filled with anger. It's difficult, but we're managing. I wouldn't have been able to without the support of our friends and family. I love my husband. This situation is terrifying. In moments of clarity, he's trying to make me laugh, so I don't worry. That's who he is. Thank you for everyone for pushing me to get him checked out. And let's get into the comments. One user says, in his moments of clarity, does he recognize how he's been acting? Or is there always some level of reality distortion? And the OP responds and says, he seems mostly very confused, if that makes any sense. He has apologized, but his mind is just not working with him right now. Another user says, OP, this is not the first time I've seen a thread on Reddit where a brain tumor caused significant behavior changes. I hope the surgeons are able to remove it and your husband's previous personality comes back. Have the doctors given you any info on what to expect after the tumor has been removed? And the OP responds and says, right now, it's the question if it can be removed. There's a lot we don't know right now. The doctors and nurses have been incredibly kind, though. And then we get an update 3 weeks later titled, I'm irrationally angry at my husband for having a brain tumor. The update reads, I can't say these feelings out loud, not to the people around me, so I hope it's okay to do it here. But I'm furious with my husband for getting sick. I know he's not to blame. I know he's suffering. Yet I'm still furious with him. I can't explain it. He is the love of my life. How dare he get sick? How dare he change anything about the wonderful life we have planned? How dare he leave me so much sooner than when we're old and senile? 2 months ago, our life was perfect. How could everything get so horrible so fast? I love him so much it hurts, and because of that, I'm so angry with him right now. I feel like a horrible person. And let's get into some of the top comments. One user says, "Oh yes, I feel this. Fellow brain tumor partner here. Hi, and I'm sorry you're in this club. The hardest part was that we had a bad year running up to this because his personality changed and we weren't getting along. I was in the process of getting us a couples counselor for fresh eyes on his erratic takes instead of spotting the signs of a tumor. So I'll always carry that guilt with me. But it's a real whiplash on the relationship dynamics. Wait, you didn't mean all that shit? You're just sick? And now our future is all messed up and I'm your carer?" He's a lot more back to his rational self now that he's had the tumor resection. But radiation is a bastard too, and chemo, let's be honest. Not sure where you are in the journey with treatment. It sounds pretty fresh. We're about half a year in, so if it's helpful, I can share some insights on what it might be like for the road ahead. And then we get an update 9 days later, and let's get into the next update. It reads, "It's 2 a.m. here, so I apologize if this is not very coherent. I'm going to step away from all social media, and I wanted to leave you with a brutally honest update. It's silly, but y'all's support has meant a lot to me. Don't get me wrong, I have wonderful family and friends, but in a way I have to comfort them too. And I can't deal with it right now. My husband is dying. In the 5 weeks since his diagnosis, he's gotten worse quickly. Today, the decision has been made not to continue treatment, or even properly start it. He's not strong enough. He has a month, maybe, if we're lucky. I'm furious at the world right now, and I'm furious at him, which makes me an enormous bitch. Because what kind of person is angry at their husband for being ill? I love him so much and I hate him for it. I'm sorry this isn't a better update. I wish you all the best." And let's get into some of the top comments. One user says, "Holy hell, I'm so sorry. I remember hoping it was schizophrenia and not a tumor. I'm still kind of hoping this is someone's creative writing venture, but I'm devastated for you. I know tears from a stranger on the internet aren't really a comfort, but they're still falling for you. I lost my little sister a few years ago. I love her so much. She was my world. I was like a half parent to her. I was planning my life on having her live with me. And after the very quick progression of an unknown illness, she was gone. I still can only imagine what you're going through. I'm so sorry. I hope you're already linked with palliative care. There's some amazing people. Take it literally 1 second at a time, then 1 minute, then an hour, then a day. I was taking it an hour at a time for months after she died, and I still sometimes go day by day. If you can get grief counseling, go ASAP. I did phone sessions, can give you more info if you're in Australia. I mainly use my sessions to just talk about my sister, to tell stories and remember her, to have someone new know her. Sending you love and light." And the OP responds and says, "This comment means a lot to me. Thank you. I'm sorry for what you've been through. Our medical team has been incredible, even dealing with my emotions with a lot of patience. I just wish this wasn't the path we had to take." And then we get a heartbreaking update post 4 weeks later titled, "He passed." He passed on the 16th. We had his funeral shortly after. Thank you for the messages. Wishing you all the best. And then we get another update 4 months later, titled Little Update. And this reads, "Hi friends. I wanted to write a little something here. I don't know if anyone will see it or care. I probably didn't show it properly, but your words did mean something to me. I'm doing okay-ish. Sometimes the grief makes me physically nauseous, but I manage. My friends have been wonderful. For a while, I took a step back from his and my family. I do regret that. I guess I had a hard time dealing with their sadness, but we're mostly doing better now. I have a dog now. My friend had to get rid of him because of her living situation changing and asked me. Saying yes, initially temporary, was the best thing that happened. It gave me a reason to get out of bed, to focus on something else. Now don't go gifting your grieving friends random pets, but for me it worked out very well. I've also started working out again since a few weeks, only part-time, but it's going alright. And I recommend therapy for anyone going through this. I resisted at first, then agreed and ended up with a therapist who I didn't connect with, I realize now, and stopped again. Eventually I tried again, and I'm grateful for it. I feel a lot more comfortable and heard with her. It's hard. I'm not gonna lie. I wanted to no longer continue going on. Sometimes I still do, but I feel lighter than I did before. It's getting better. I still cry often, and that's okay, as my therapist would say. One step at a time. Thank you for giving me more kindness than I expected from strangers." And let's get into the top comment. The top comment reads, "Yes, we absolutely still care, and I'm so sorry for your loss. I'm so glad that you cut yourself a break for how you're grieving. As many people told you, anger is a normal part of grief and doesn't make you a monster. It just makes you human. I honestly don't know if it's harder to know that someone is going to pass away or if a spontaneous loss is worse. I wish more people understood that you have every right to fire your therapist and that it's okay to audition potentials. We're here for you, whether you want to talk about rainbows and unicorns or what you had for dinner or your grief, etc. Our support is unconditional. Sending you so many hugs." And then we get one final update 8.5 months later, titled Last Update. And it reads as follows. "I've been coming back to this account often lately and decided that it's time to let it go. It's been over a year since we lost him. It still feels surreal, but I just wanted to let anyone who sees this know I'm doing quite okay. I'm working full time. I've started a new hobby and make an effort to spend time with people I love. Most importantly, I realize there's days where I'm enjoying myself again, and I'm so grateful for that. Don't get me wrong. It's still so hard. I miss him every day. I still go to therapy weekly, but I feel like slowly I'm moving in the right direction. Dating is off the table, and that's okay, because I have the best dog to keep me company. Thank you all so much for caring and letting me know and letting be my grieving self here. You've made a huge difference for this stranger. All the love." And like the OP said, this was the last post they ever posted to their profile. And just what a horrible, horrible situation. I mean, it started out as everyone wondering whether this was a manipulation tactic or, schizophrenia or some other, more explainable happening, that why he was acting so weird, why he was thinking the OP was pregnant when she wasn't. And it ended up being a brain tumor that ended up killing him shortly after. And it's just, life is very unfair. It really is. I mean, like, the OP didn't deserve this. The OP's husband didn't deserve this. It's just very, it brings up a lot of questions for like why things like that happen. But I don't know. I'm just kind of speaking here, but like I said, when I first read the title, this was a very disturbing and depressing Reddit thread. And I'd like to hear what you guys think down below about this. And I just hope that the OP and her family can find some peace. And I hope that the OP's husband rests in peace. Just such a sad, sad situation that, I was not expecting when I first read through that first post. I'm like, oh, is this some sort of, just weird guy? And it just, takes a turn like that. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just yapping, but super, super depressing. But on to the next one. Am I the asshole for refusing to host Easter dinner if my nephew is invited? Throwaway because wife knows my account. I, 37, and my wife, 35, have been arguing about this all week. Our nephew, who is 22, has always been troubled, even though sister-in-law 44 and brother-in-law 48 have always treated him well. Some examples of his unsettling behavior: he was caught feeding one of brother-in-law's horses avocados, poisonous to horses to make it sick. I have dogs and don't want him to hurt them as well. He demands to be called the names of 2 specific fictional characters. He believes he is these characters, reincarnated. If you call him by his real name or refuse to go along with his illusions, he becomes aggressive. He carries around a plushie of one of these characters everywhere. There is a hole in the back. The hole is stained. I have tried not to jump to conclusions about what he does to that plushie and failed. It smells rancid, and honestly, just thinking about the thing makes me want to vomit. I've tried so hard to be patient with his quirks, as my wife puts it, but what really pushed me over the edge was an incident that occurred a few weeks ago. For context, wife has struggled with infertility for our entire marriage, and we have given up on having our own kid until we recently discovered she is pregnant. Given the fact that she is 35, we have been surprised and overjoyed. A few weeks ago, wife started randomly getting rude texts from nephew, insulting our baby. One text implied that our baby would have fetal alcohol syndrome due to my wife's previous drinking problem. Even though she has been sober for years, I wanted to call up that insensitive brat and tear into him. But wife insisted we gently let him know via text that we didn't appreciate his comments. When he kept going and my wife started crying, I called sister-in-law. She was able to shut him down and get him to apologize. I have no idea what the hell got into him, but I suspect it has to do with his hatred of women. Wife believes that he may be on the spectrum / have undiagnosed mental illness and that he needs to be treated patiently. I think he has been coddled his entire life, and it has only made him worse. I think if someone doesn't put their foot down, his behavior will escalate into something dangerous. Here's where I may be the asshole. Each year, wife and I host Easter dinner for her entire family. Wife has already forgiven nephew for the incident and is insisting we invite him so that he isn't isolated from his family, something she believes will worsen his behavior. I see her reasoning, but enough is enough. I refused. I said she is being a doormat like everyone else in the family when it comes to him, and that our man-child of a nephew can't just make her cry and get away with it with an empty apology. Some of my friends are saying that I am being controlling and that I can't stop her from seeing her own family. I feel like I am going insane. Am I the asshole? And now let's get into some of the top comments. One user says he has a history of poisoning. He has a history of hating women. He has a history of mentally abusing your wife. He has a history of saying the baby will have birth defects. It seems like it would be fully within his capabilities to poison your wife to hurt the baby. Sounds crazy, but this guy definitely is. And the OP responds and says, "This is exactly what I'm afraid of. I feel like nobody in the family wants to admit that his problems aren't just him having quirks. They're warning signs of potentially dangerous behavior later on, and they need to be dealt with." I'm glad I'm not alone in thinking this. I was starting to wonder if I was overreacting. Like the plushie thing and him thinking he is certain fictional characters is one thing, but the animal cruelty and anger towards women is what really has me concerned. Another commenter says, yes, the animal cruelty is a clear sign of him being an actual psychopath. The issue is how to make your wife see this without pushing it. Most people don't want to believe their family is capable of such cruelty. You'll have to be very, very gentle if you intend to discuss it at all. Worst comes to worst, very carefully watch the food and drinks. Personally, I can't believe anyone in the family puts up with that utterly disgusting plushie. I mean, how can they expect you to bring your future child around that? And the OP responds and says, his parents got it for him when he was a kid. They thought it was cute when he brought it everywhere. I think on some level, they still see him as a child, so they kind of refuse to acknowledge what he does to that thing. Another commenter says, not the asshole, but honestly, the whole family are for allowing this to continue. How long has he behaved like this for? I can't believe no one has taken him to a doctor. I mean, just the fact that this adult man is carrying around a stinky, stained plushie of a fictional character is bad enough, but then trying to hurt a horse? And no one thinks that's worth looking into? And the OP responds and says, his mom does try to push him to go to therapy and to get a job. And he usually will get a therapist for a few weeks. And then she is back to begging him to get therapy. She didn't want to push him when he was younger, but now that he is an adult, she cannot make him do anything. At least he has learned, after getting fired for this previously, not to take his plushie to the job he manages to hold down for a month or two. And then some people ask if the OP knows if he's harmed or hurt any other animals. And the OP says, I do not know if he has harmed other animals. He was actually vegan for a few months at one point, and was very anti-animal cruelty. I don't know why he flipped and tried to hurt one of the horses. And honestly, the fact that he can go against his own supposed values like that also scares me. I think I need to emphasize to my wife that this is a matter of safety rather than me just being mad at our nephew for his comments, although that is also a part of it. My wife has always wanted kids so badly, and before she got pregnant, I think she projected a bit of that onto her nephew as we watched him a decent amount when he was younger. I get that he's family and she loves him, and it's hard to admit that someone you love could be a danger to you, but she also has our baby to think about. I think I will show her these comments in the morning after I make her teen apologize for calling her a doormat / getting upset while arguing. I needed to approach this a bit more gently, as you guys are confirming for me that it really is more serious than him just being rude. And then the OP makes an update 13 hours later, and let's get into it. The update reads, "My wife and I had a long talk this morning in which I made it clear that I was more concerned about her and our baby's safety than anything. I also apologized for resorting to name-calling last night. Wife isn't a doormat. She just has a lot of love and patience for her family." It was a hard talk with some tears from both of us, but she agreed that this has escalated to a point that may become dangerous, in part due to the enabling from all of us. Honestly, I am also guilty of coddling him, especially when he was a kid. It's hard to admit when someone you took care of as a kid has grown into someone unsafe to be around, but I think the idea in this comment might work as a way to set boundaries without shutting him off permanently. We are going to call his mother and explain that Easter dinner isn't happening this year if the nephew is coming, and that he is welcome to come over when he has a diagnosis and is stuck with a therapist for at least a couple of months. Thank you all for your advice." And then we get an update post about 2 weeks later, and let's get into it. This series of bizarre events started on Easter and has only gotten weirder since. For those of you who did not read / don't remember my original post, my nephew was banned from our recent Easter dinner due to a concerning pattern of behavior, including recent disturbing text messages to my pregnant wife about her unborn child. Since then, his parents eventually agreed to not bring him after a lot of arguing. Sister-in-law, nephew's mother, eventually admitted that he may need professional help and that wife and I may have some reason to be worried for our safety around him. That's concerning. And on Easter, our worries were proven more than reasonable. He showed up uninvited, using brother-in-law's car. His parents came in sister-in-law's car. Our dinner was interrupted by aggressive pounding on our door. I don't know how to put this without it sounding insane, so here it goes. Nephew was at our door, holding a sword and dressed as the Joker. He tried to say something, but I slammed the door in his face and told everyone inside what was going on. Chaos, predictably, ensued. Brother-in-law, a generally calm guy who I have never seen freak out or get angry, turned beet red and went outside. He ended up literally chasing nephew around our house, screaming at him in an attempt to get him to leave. Neighbors came outside and sister-in-law went into damage control mode, talking down one concerned neighbor from calling the police somehow. He dropped his sword in the chase and brother-in-law tackled him on our front lawn. They got him into sister-in-law's car somehow and they left with him. Easter dinner was ruined. Wife was in tears. I was so mad, I was shaking. Good news is that this was a wake-up call for sister-in-law and brother-in-law. Under threat of them withdrawing financial support, nephew has agreed to seek therapy and surrender access to his Tumblr blog, which he previously would spend hours a day posting on. His mother went through it and found a lot of alarming posts, including content about his hatred for women, screenshots posted of his text exchange with my wife with captions bragging about his hurtful behavior, and several disturbing fan fictions with violent, intimate content. They believe him being too online is worsening his behavior and are hoping that limiting his access and forcing him into therapy will help. Thank you for all who convinced me to stand my ground in the comments of my original post. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, I think it's a little more than seeing a therapist and we take away a little social media. That young man needed the cops called and a 5150 hold. I hope y'all start putting things like security measures in place. Good luck, and you're still not the asshole. And the OP responds and says, I might suggest that 5150 hold to his parents, but his mother is already worried that taking away his phone was too much, as if he didn't show up at my house with a weapon. And another user says, not the asshole. Look, for all I care, you can be a rabbit identifying as a frog or believe you are Superman. If you aren't hurting anyone and can function in society, have at it, but this guy is scary and dangerous. He hurts animals, hates women, and has a false sense of reality. The family has enabled this behavior for years. Nope, I wouldn't want him anywhere near your pregnant wife, and later your child. He is going to hurt someone. And the OP responds and says, funnily enough, you almost guessed which two characters he identifies as. Kermit, the frog to be exact. Yes, as in the Muppet. And the Joker. Not Superman, but from the same source material. And then one commenter actually finds the OP's nephew's Tumblr account, and I'm not going to expose what the username is or the link to their profile, but I'm gonna read a few posts from here because, yeah, it is weird, disturbing, and just strange. One of his posts reads, I still have hot glue burns all over my mouth from trying to kiss my sock puppet with tongue while the glue was still wet. It's kind of like my own personal Joker scars. Guess this is my life now. The clown paint just never comes off. I feel more badass than ever before. And also, other posts confirm that the plushie he has was being used for what the OP was, thinking it was being used for. Yeah, just gross, weird, really, really weird. I mean, I just keep scrolling through this post or just through this profile, and very strange. He has such a interest in puppets, Kermit the Frog, and the Joker. It is very, very strange. And there's actually a picture of his doll, which is Kermit dressed as the Joker. Very, very strange. And then we get an update 8 days later from the OP, and the update is titled Final Update, hopefully. First and second post of my profile for those of you who are out of the loop. Thank you for the kind messages and advice in the comments. The situation is being taken seriously by brother-in-law, wife, and myself. Sister-in-law still has her head buried in the sand a bit, but we are working on it. At the very least, she has not lifted the phone ban, and she has been looking through his Tumblr as well as his other social media to see if he really had violent intentions on Easter. Sister-in-law still believes nephew that he only came to talk. In any case, he had his first therapy session with the new therapist this week. He has promised to stick with it, mostly because sister-in-law said she would return his phone if he stuck with it long enough. Not sure how long enough is. The plus side of him being a man-child is that he is either unwilling to just buy himself a new phone with the little money he has, or he doesn't realize that he is an adult who can gain financial independence, so his mother can't threaten to take things away from him like he's a child in timeout. He has told his mom to tell us that he's very sorry for his behavior and that it won't happen again. I'm skeptical. Wife is still holding out hope but refuses to see him unless he shows substantial improvement. Brother-in-law is looking into resources for places he can get nephew committed should that become necessary. But he believes that the situation is under control as long as sister-in-law doesn't budge. They have also confiscated his sword, and I don't think he has any access to other weapons. I was also sent a link to nephew's Tumblr blog. Sister-in-law has already seen it on his phone, but did not want to share its contents because she feels like we have villainized her baby enough. I went through his blog with my wife and didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or pour bleach into my eyeballs. His blog basically confirmed what you all have been trying to tell me about his pattern of violence and hatred for women. He posts a lot about how females are all entitled and how he hates ever having to interact with them. Additionally, he seems to be stalking one of his exes, which is a whole other layer of concerning. He also writes intimately explicit fan fiction about Muppets, which is not a safety concern, but has permanently ruined the entire show for me. Sorry this update isn't very exciting, but a lot of people express concern for my family and I's safety, so I'm letting you all know the situation is being handled and everyone is okay. For those wondering about the plushie of Kermit, it has gone missing according to sister-in-law and brother-in-law. I hope it stays missing forever. And now let's get into some of the top comments. One user says, "Hi OP, you had correct instincts here. Nephew is absolutely mentally unwell. The patterns of violence scares me to even read. The thing about the horses? If he was trying to feed it avocados to make it sick, he could have killed it. Horses can't vomit. The Muppet fanfiction and the other sort of plushie is so gross. That's something that is beyond a little unwell. People who believe in that stuff are largely mentally unwell, and especially if he decided he's doing it is a literal psycho murderer. I am wondering if he is suffering from some sort of delusional disorder. Granted, that is for the therapists to decide. I agree with the others who've mentioned it. You should invest in a Ring doorbell or other security devices. He might get his phone back and blame you for everything. I looked at his Tumblr and people commented on his Tumblr to blast him, and some people mentioned the Reddit post. If his brain works and with some Googling, he could find these posts. Hope for the best and assume the worst here. I dearly hope sister-in-law will take more action. The nephew is going to seriously hurt someone." I also found the post about the horse on Tumblr, and the OP's nephew post on Tumblr reads as follows. It says, "My father's favorite horse has gotten mysteriously ill. If he dies, maybe I will finally be the favorite son instead of playing second fiddle to an animal." And someone replies and says, "There's so much on there about the horses and his hatred for them. All the logical signs point to him. He 100% did attempt to kill it. In the hashtags, I was starting to get really freaked out as someone with my own horse. I really hope OP is safe and taking precautions." And then the OP actually makes a mini update to their post and says, edit, "People are messaging me saying that he is back to updating his Tumblr account. So that likely means that sister-in-law has gone back on her word. I'm going to call brother-in-law and update him. Also, he is still hiding the plushie somewhere because brother-in-law was trying to throw it away and he can't find it anywhere." And then the OP comes back with another update titled "More Updates," unfortunately, and it reads as follows. "Sorry for the lack of updates. Life has been a bit crazy. Wife and I went no contact with nephew and sister-in-law, which has been hard on wife because she has always been close with her sister. We have kept contact with brother-in-law, keeping him updated if we saw anything concerning on his Tumblr account, as many of you have kept me updated. And boy, did he post concerning stuff. I'm not sure what the last straw was. Possibly when he posted about cutting off part of his coworker's hair and getting fired as a result. But brother-in-law decided he had had enough of sister-in-law's permissive parenting and nephew's destructive behavior going ignored. Brother-in-law has been trying to go harsher on nephew to straighten him out. But sister-in-law throws such a tantrum every time he has tried that he has decided he's had enough. A few days ago, he packed up and left. Now it looks like he and sister-in-law are going to get a divorce. He has been staying with us for a few days, going back once to make sure his horses were put in temporary boarding while he figures his stuff out. He is also working on getting a lawyer. In other news, my nephew has run away from home. He is 22, so I don't know if this means he has finally gotten an apartment or what. All I know is a few hours ago, sister-in-law called brother-in-law in hysterics, crying that he had left a note and that it was brother-in-law's fault. I think that he may have gone to stay with some internet friends, but wife is getting worried as it is 3 a.m. and there is still no sign of him. Actually, I also kind of worried, but I'm trying to stay level-headed and not think of worst-case scenarios. Sorry if this is unclear and sounds rushed, but stuff is still unfolding and this has been a lot to deal with. I will answer any questions y'all have once everything calms down a bit. Edit. Several hours after I made this post, police found nephew in a small forest a few blocks away. He was hiding in the trees, and I guess he was going to try to live there. They returned him to his mom's house. I am exhausted. And now let's get into some of the top comments. One user says, okay, can we also note how weird sister-in-law is being? Why is she acting but also treating like her son is 10? It's weird. It's like she also has some weird mental problems with her son. Like, it's odd and not normal to act this way about a 22-year-old man, who is also her son. Like, it's giving me an icky boy mom vibes in a very gross way. Also, kudos to your brother-in-law for finally taking some much needed action. Also, I think you should contact the police. Get everything on file. Nephew may come after police now that he has ran off. He is a danger to others. Stay safe, OP. And someone else says, his Tumblr has a post about how he's going to live in the woods in hope that your brother-in-law will return home. He also has one about collecting herbs and berries to eat in the woods, and that one seems very disturbing. Apparently, he believes he has a natural survival instinct. I don't know if he has done a lot of camping, but I would be concerned since his reality seems not that existent. The fact that your sister-in-law is throwing tantrums unfortunately shows that she is to blame for his behavior. And someone else says, I mentioned a 5150 hold in the comments on your first or second post. Your brother-in-law should be calling the police and hopefully, if they find him, he can be assessed more seriously than his current voluntary therapy sessions. He needs a psychiatric evaluation and treatment, for sure. And then the OP makes another update a few days later titled, Jesus Christ, when will it end? And let's get into it. It reads, at this point, I'm just going to use this account to rant about my insane nephew because venting to my wife just makes her sad about the person he has grown into, which I think is completely fair. So the good news is that sister-in-law has finally taken action. Brother-in-law has been keeping up with nephew's posts online ever since he found brother-in-law's new apartment and took a crap outside his front door. Long story short, and not super relevant to this current update. Point is, brother-in-law was monitoring the situation from a safe distance and was able to find proof that nephew was becoming dangerous to others. Finally convincing sister-in-law, after some painful conversations and damning screenshots from his blog, that something needed to be done. The screenshots in particular were a series of posts that nephew made in which he challenged a random person online to a duel, giving an exact time and location as well as promising to bring his goddamn sword. Unfortunately, threatening to attack people with swords has become a behavioral pattern for him, so I can't even find it in me to be surprised. I am just so goddamn tired at this point. As some of you smart cookies may already know, Telling a large amount of people on the internet your exact location is, drumroll please, stupid and dangerous, especially with the threat of violence, which eventually expanded to him threatening to attack everyone and everything who challenged him at the location he specified. This was his mom's breaking point. So when nephew asked sister-in-law to drive him to his duel, she instead took him to their church. Yep, not therapy, not the police, an evangelical church. A different church than the one sister-in-law goes to because he was banned from that one. Also a long story. He is once again on the internet timeout and being forced to meet with the pastor once every week to bring him back to Jesus or whatever. So at least something is being done. Is this at least a step in the right direction for sister-in-law? I don't even know anymore. And then the OP doesn't update us for a few months, but a few months later, the OP comes back with another post titled Thanksgiving, and it reads as follows. I'm pretty sure that no one is still invested in my petty family drama at this point, but Reddit was a good outlet the last time my nephew showed up to a holiday meal and completely ruined it. So to Reddit, I return. Read my other post if you are out of the loop, I guess. First of all, my son was born in early November, and his presence had been such an overwhelming joy in my wife and I's life. We had been so busy with him that we hadn't even thought about whether nephew would be at Thanksgiving until the days leading up to it. We called mother-in-law, who was hosting, and she reassured us he was staying behind and that it was only going to be us and sister-in-law. Small Thanksgiving, but yeah, mother-in-law does not have a lot of family, so we always try to make it to her house when she hosts. Brother-in-law and nephew usually attend as well, but sister-in-law and brother-in-law are recently divorced, and nephew is, well, a danger to society, to put it mildly. So we head over to her house early in the morning for a humble Thanksgiving of 5. Myself, wife, son, sister-in-law, and mother-in-law arriving first. Mother-in-law is cooing over her grandson and holding him when the doorbell rings. In steps sister-in-law, and in steps nephew. Not wearing Joker makeup this time or holding his special plushie, thank God. I am immediately out of my chair, ready to rain fire down and tell this man to get away from here before he has some kind of violent outburst around my newborn. When mother-in-law cuts me off, asking nephew if there is anything he would like to say to my wife and I. Nephew approaches me with a very serious look in his eye, bows at a 90-degree angle, and begins rattling off this insane apology, most of which is being directed at the floor. I really did not catch most of it, but my wife squeezed my hand and looked at me with tears in her eyes. I know you will call me stupid, Reddit, but my hormonal, recently pregnant wife was almost crying with how happy she was to see that nephew had grown as a person. And she had told me earlier in her pregnancy that she hoped our baby would be able to play with him and look up to his older cousin. My wife has taken no contact with our nephew rather hard, as we looked after him a lot when he was little, and I cannot really blame her for folding immediately upon seeing him again. I accepted nephew's apology for his outburst earlier in the year and told him that all family is welcome at Thanksgiving. My wife hugged me, and mother-in-law started saying how excited she was to have both of her grandchildren with her. I kind of got the sense that mother-in-law and sister-in-law planned this behind our backs, but for the sake of the holiday, I was willing to let it go. Maybe he changed. The first hiccup was when mother-in-law was in the kitchen taking the turkey out of the oven. Sister-in-law was holding our son and asked if nephew could hold him. Wife and I firmly said no, but agreed that he could say hi. Nephew leaned in close to get a good look at our newborn and began laughing like a psycho. Like, from completely silent to cackling maniacally. He startled my son into crying, and when I reprimanded him, he did not seem apologetic at all. and instead kept doing that weird laugh and saying, "I cannot contain the Joker." I admit I started to lose my cool at that point. I told him he needs to grow up and stop acting like a creep all the time, which seemed to really piss him off. He yelled that he is not a creep and that he has changed a lot since I last saw him. He said that he found God and that he is not a misogynist anymore because he claimed that men are just as vile and humanity is doomed no matter the gender. I called him a mistake and he grabbed the turkey, which mother-in-law had just brought in during the commotion, by the leg. Shrieking at the top of his lungs, nephew swung the turkey like a sledgehammer directly at my head. Mother-in-law stepped in to intervene, which caused the hot, oven-fresh turkey to slam wetly into her hand. Silence for a moment. Then the sizzling of my mother-in-law's skin as the grease of the turkey sticking to her face made quick work of her epidermis, causing her to scream. I regret that I was completely stunned into inaction, but luckily my wife came to her senses quicker than I did, and it was now her turn to chase down my nephew, much like how brother-in-law had this past Easter. She was not as fast as him, given that she had given birth earlier that month, but her yells and threats scared him bad enough that he fled out the door, sister-in-law on his heels. She ended up driving him home, shooting us a nasty text saying my wife overreacted and that his outburst was my fault in the first place. That's crazy. Apparently, we scared her beloved baby boy, 22 years old, so bad that he pissed himself, so I guess he's the real victim. Wife and I took mother-in-law to urgent care, and she has insisted that no charges should be pressed against nephew, even though her face is severely burned from the turkey grease and the impact of the swing gave her a concussion. Oh my God, this guy needs to be locked up. She is not even mad at him and says he is just troubled and that, quote, everyone makes mistakes. I think our mistake was believing my wife, and I can trust her family to stop inviting unstable people around our newborn. I don't want to cut mother-in-law off because she is old and lonely, but I don't want her around our newborn because I do not trust that she will not invite nephew. That being said, I do not want to keep her away from her grandbaby. Now, I know this was long and probably no one's reading this, but if anyone has any advice for how to proceed, I really would appreciate it. And before we get into the comments, like, the OP and his wife are so lucky that the nephew didn't want to attack the newborn baby for whatever reason, you know? Like, it's not good that he swung a turkey and gave his, I guess it would be his grandma, a concussion. Like, obviously that's not good. That's horrible. But, like, thank God he didn't swing the turkey at the baby or freak out and grab the baby or do whatever. I mean, he was wanting to hold the baby. That's terrifying. I mean, he could have easily dropped it or done something horrible. I mean, this guy is a complete psychopath. But let's get into some of the top comments. One user says, unfortunately, I keep up with your nephew's Tumblr account. I think it is against your child's best interest and safety to let him or anyone who defends him in your child's life. There is something very, very wrong with your nephew, and I understand that psych holds did nothing but cause more drama. My suggestion, do not let any of them near your house. If you choose to meet with mother-in-law, it should be in a public place where you can leave, and maybe somewhere with security cameras. If you don't already have security cameras, get them. If possible, get a restraining order against him. Use mother-in-law's urgent care release papers as part of evidence. Do not forgive or relax your guard around him. Don't let your guard down around sister-in-law. Don't let your guard down around mother-in-law. They are supporting a man who is very psychologically unhinged, has a history of threatening behavior and assault. Obviously, it's sad that mother-in-law won't be around for her grandbaby and that she's lonely. Tough luck. She's choosing someone who I can't describe without getting banned from this platform. Good luck. I'm sorry your wife has such a horrible family. Also, it seems as though your nephew may want to dox your baby. Obviously, I cannot trust that Tumblr for any facts, but everything on there is so unhinged. I cannot tell if it's a joke or a threat. And the OP responds and says, "This is good advice. Thank you. I think my wife's family has always been crazy and has a history of excusing bad behavior, particularly from men. So she is a little desensitized to it. Honestly, dealing with my in-laws had normalized this kind of behavior for me too, to some extent. I was unaware my nephew still had an online presence. I will call his mom, not that she'll listen, about this threats of doxing, even if I am confused about what the hell doxing a baby would even accomplish." And someone else says, "Your wife has to accept that he is a danger to all of you. If she cannot, then you're going to have to make some tough choices because you can't keep going on like this." And someone else says, "Your choice is to protect your son or not. Your mother-in-law and sister-in-law refuse to acknowledge that this guy is dangerous. That makes them just as dangerous. Worse, as they enable him and manipulate you and your wife with absolutely no effort. So keep your son safe, or see if it's your baby being flung by the leg next time. Make your choice. I can't believe it's even a hard choice. Get security cameras and don't ever go to mother-in-law's home again. She's also not allowed at your home. No more ambushes. She can see baby at Starbucks if you're so reckless as to keep contact with someone who knowingly and willfully manipulated you into endangering the safety of your baby. Why you stayed when he walked in the door is just the most ridiculously dangerous and bad thing, but it can't happen again. Your mother-in-law does not care enough or respect either of you enough to even protect a newborn. You're the kid's parents. Do better." And this is the last update we have ever received from the OP. And man, I really wonder how this entire saga ended. I wonder if the OP's nephew ended up in prison or jail or in a psych ward somewhere, or I don't know. But what I do know is that the OP's nephew is still posting on his Tumblr. Like I said, I'm not going to link the profile. I'm not going to do anything. Do not contact anyone mentioned in this video. But man, this Tumblr account is beyond disturbing. I can't tell if it's a joke or if he's crazy, but from the entire story we just read and the thread we just got into, it does not seem like a joke. Yeah, this is just the most unhinged Tumblr account I have ever seen before. Like, it's just so weird. Like I said, it's a mix of, Muppet, Kermit the Frog, and the Joker. And he likes the Muppets and wants to make love with the Muppets. Yeah. This is just one of the most insane Reddit threads I have ever read. And yeah, on to the next one. Ayahuasca ruined my life. Originally posted to r/DMT and r/psychosis. And for those of you who don't know what ayahuasca is a traditional psychoactive brew that's been used for centuries by indigenous people of the Amazon rainforest, mainly for spiritual, ceremonial, and healing purposes. And basically, it is a very, very intense psychedelic experience that gives you vivid visions and deep emotional introspection, and just an altered state of consciousness lasting 4 to 8 hours. And many people do ayahuasca for personal growth or being able to look inwards or for mental health challenges. Although doing ayahuasca isn't risk-free, And ayahuasca can trigger severe anxiety or panic that lasts a long time. It can increase confusion, impaired judgment, and prolonged psychological distress. And in some people, especially those with a personal or family history of schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, or other psychotic disorders, ayahuasca actually can trigger psychosis or mania. And obviously, that is not good. And it can be very, very dangerous, and you can lose your mind. But without further ado, let's get into the story. I just wanted to make sure you guys know what ayahuasca was for those of you who don't know. And the Reddit post is titled, "Ayahuasca Ruined My Life." My story. What happened in this ceremony in Costa Rica? My mind and perception was bouncing back and forth between good and evil. I would see and feel complete magic and light to complete darkness. Eventually, all the light went away, and I became separate from everything and everyone. There was just a void. My personality changed into something else, something terrible. In the ceremony, I actually ran away. I left the ceremony thinking that I was also leaving my life, and I would try again in a different lifetime. I felt I had failed life, and my external environment became extremely uncomfortable and unpleasant. The energy in my body felt like poison. Every sound hurt my ears, and even the food tasted bad. I became the ugliest version of myself that I didn't even recognize. I was going through a lot in life at the time, and perhaps it was not a good time for me to go, but who knows why this happened. The psyche is fragile, and things can easily go wrong no matter how prepared you are. Psychedelic psychosis is more common than I knew at the time. After the ceremony, the effects of the ayahuasca did not wear off. They actually became stronger over time. My mind was completely taken over that I could not identify with myself anymore. My mind would break and shatter apart over and over. I would get this constant stream of negative thoughts piercing my head for months, changing my personality over time. I started losing my memories, my values, my perceptions, my mind. I was working with 2 medicine men, but nothing seemed to help. I did everything I could to hold on to myself, but eventually my mind got so hijacked that my former self stopped existing. Intense energy sizzled through my body, and I could not sleep for weeks. My thoughts made me believe I was not ascending, and I'd be trapped in hell for all eternity. I was kicked out of the ceremony of life and was disconnected from life, my heart and spirit. My heart would constantly pound in my chest, my body would shake uncontrollably, and my brain would hurt. My perception of time was completely gone. I do not even remember the plane ride home. I ended up in the hospital from going manic and from constantly screaming that I was doomed for eternity and I would be going to hell. I was constantly planning my own S-word. All I could perceive was how I was going to be tortured for eternity, from the sounds of chainsaws to dogs barking to my teeth falling out and being burned. I was traumatized with fear. I would throw up from screaming for hours, stuck in loops, pacing for hours in distress. I ended up in the emergency 3 times for manic episodes and eventually the psych ward. I have never had mental illness in the past. Now I find it hard to leave the house as I now have major anxiety, depression, and fear. Since then, 8 months later, I no longer feel the effects of ayahuasca and have stabilized, but who I am now compared to who I was is very different. I feel completely disconnected from my heart and spirit. I cannot find joy in anything anymore, not even nature or music. I constantly feel jumbled and confused in this utter lifelessness. All of my thoughts are now negative, and I can't feel anything anymore. I don't feel my emotions except fear and despair. Plus, my creativity is gone. It's like I'm living without my soul. I have no motivation or interests anymore. Just getting out of bed is difficult. I lost my business as an artist and partner through this whole experience. And now let's get into some of the top comments. One user says, were you taking any psych meds prior to the experience? What you're describing is post-manic depression. The same thing happened to me, both SSRI, and I also lost everything. And the OP responds and says, I wasn't on any medication before. I've never had any mental illnesses prior. I'm so sorry that happened to you. I keep hearing more people talk about these encounters, but only after it happened. And the commenter replied again and said, I have heard that even if you have a mild undiagnosed psychotic disorder, so think bipolar, which is fairly common, psychedelics can trigger a sharp onset. And the OP replies and says, for sure, but I have done ayahuasca 5 times prior and nothing was triggered. Another user says, this is happening more and more often since all these shamans that are supposed to protect the ceremony space don't know how to do it and leave people open to energetic parasitism. The only way to heal this is unfortunately through the same plant medicine. Make sure you have a real shaman this time who can identify and remove the pathogen that is now attached to your soul. These things thrive on such energy. You can take ownership of your own being again. However, it will take a long time. If you don't want to consider plant medicine again, some sort of meditation over many years would slowly but surely make space for the real you to inhabit your mind and body again. And the OP replies and says, I'm worried that taking plant medicine again will make me worse. I was only considering it if I don't see any progress in a year. And one commenter smartly says, don't take it again. Fight for footing in the reality you have. And I agree. I don't think the OP should go back and take that medicine or take the ayahuasca since it made her worse. I think she should, see a psychiatrist or therapist or go to the hospital because she clearly has triggered something serious. Another commenter says, any history of bipolar, manic episodes of schizophrenia before this? What you describe happened to me, but I didn't even drink ayahuasca. Was from my traumas surfacing for me to deal with after I got off a lifetime of SSRIs and had a breakdown. And the OP says, no mental illness before this. And another commenter says, I'm really sorry to hear about this. Must be horrifying to have your life stripped away from you and feel so empty inside. Deep down, I'm wishing you well and that you pull through this. There are a few points, though, that I'd like to share. First, my childhood friend had something similar happen to him when he was 19. He tripped on mushrooms and he went to a very, very dark place from which he didn't fully return for years. He gradually faded from my life, largely because I was living overseas. But when I returned home a few years later, I contacted him and we reunited. He was a sober, solid dude that oozed gravitas. There's no guarantee how this will turn out, but recovery is possible. Hang in there. Second, there's a lot of blaming going around, which I find frustrating and naive. You must have had some underlying mental illness, the shaman was bad, the medicine was bad, you needed to do more shadow work, blah, 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 blah. I'm sorry, but while that can be to blame, another aspect that is that powerful medicine also carries powerful side effects. Having a bad trip is an intrinsic risk of ayahuasca. Everything might have been good. You might have done what you needed. You just hit the lottery and have to deal with it. From what you've written, it's not worth nitpicking about what it could have been. I suggest you just go on with your life, and in that, I wish you all the best. And the OP replied and said, "Thank you for your reply. I agree. You don't know what you're going to get, and sometimes things go south. It's a risk. I never in a million years thought this could happen, yet here we are. It was my fault for not doing enough research ahead of time. I'd never even heard of people getting hospitalized because of it. People only like to talk about the good stuff. Hence why I'm posting my experience to spread awareness that things can go wrong even if you feel safe going into it." And then we don't get an update for about 2 months, but 2 months later, the OP comes back with another post titled "Ayahuasca Warning." And let's get into it. 9 months after ceremony, and it's like my whole life has been taken from me. I used to be filled with love, joy, and creativity, and now my cup is completely empty. It's like living without the soul. I can't even enjoy music anymore, which used to be my everything. I feel foolish for taking the medicine when I don't need it. I think of my past self every day, and I wish I could have that bright light back. I only live in the shadows, now hidden away. It's humiliating to lose everything and feel hopeless for it to return. I almost committed S-word 4 months after the ceremony when the psychosis never ended, and now I'm terrified of death, as I could constantly only perceive that I would spend eternity in hell. This has been worse than a nightmare. Choose wisely if the medicine is right for you. And now let's get into some of the top comments. One user says, "Posting this continuously will not make it go away. You are just instilling fear in people that would benefit from the medicine. I would strongly suggest you go and have another ceremony with a proper shaman that can diagnose attachments and remove them. Your case sounds like a typical case of energetic parasitism. These things feed on your misery." And the OP replies and says, "I'm just trying to spread awareness. I know this medicine can save lives, but it can also ruin them. If I heard the horror stories that I'm hearing now from people, I would have taken more precaution." And I am reading this story right now for you guys for that sole purpose of, sharing this OP story and making you guys know as well the risks of taking such drugs. I mean, I really don't like how this one commenter said, "Go take more of the drug that hurts you." I don't think doubling down would do any good. I think the OP just needs to consistently go to therapy, go to a psychiatrist, and really try to work this out with more proven methods, I would say. I'm not saying like all psychedelic usage is bad, but there are risks. And for some reason, a lot of those risks are kind of, thrown to the wayside. I feel like people don't talk about the possible risks of psychedelic use often. And so everyone watching, if you're ever, thinking about partaking in psychedelics, please do your research and be wary that, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, and things can go bad and possibly ruin your life. But then the OP posts another update 1 day after, and the post is titled, "Never Live a Normal Life Again." And this post also includes a picture of a barren looking tree in the middle of nowhere. I don't really understand the meaning of that, but I just thought that was worth adding because the OP posted that alongside it. And the post reads, "Hi everyone. I went to an ayahuasca ceremony on my birthday last year. I went into a very intense psychosis that was extremely amplified by the medicine and lasted for half a year. It was terrifying. My personality and thoughts were completely changed, and it got so bad that my body would convulse uncontrollably and my heart would pound and hurt. I didn't sleep for 2 weeks. It's completely ruined my life. Since then, I've stabilized, but I lost everything. My dance/music businesses, my partner, and now my soul tribe is falling away. I've never wanted to die before, but I just feel like a zombie. I'm terrified of death now, to feel lost in this new personality and loop for eternity. It's been like a horror show. I can't believe this happens to people, and it's shattering that it does. I just want to be myself again, to feel free again. My heart goes to all of you who battle with this. Giving up has never been an option for me, but holy shit, it's not living when you're like this. And man, it's just so depressing. I mean, the OP said, I want to be myself again. And it's so terrifying to think that, you can get lost in your own mind, which is what happened to the OP. Like, the OP doesn't feel like themselves. They have lost a piece of themselves, and that is so sad and so scary. And then the OP posts 1.5 months later, titled "The Aftermath of Going Through a Drug-Induced Psychosis. Can anyone relate?" Imagine humans were trees, growing, reaching, fruiting. As we get older, so do the branches, the leaves, the flowers, becoming older, wiser, stronger, more resilient, started to become unique, a home. Each part that grows and births a new creation of life represents a different path, value, interest, dream, skill, creative aspiration, etc. Like a library of everything that makes up who we are and who we've decided we want to be. Then one day, we get struck by friggin' lightning. Everything dies. All the work of becoming gone. All the fruit bared falls to the ground, and we are left unclothed, dead, with no way to get back what was destroyed. The roots stay in the ground and connections remain, but we will never become the ancient tree that we could have, should have, or grown to be. This tree has been shocked and traumatized. Life will inevitably grow again, but it won't ever be the same. That empty, hollowed, burned tree will always be a part of that lifetime. And now let's get into some of the top comments. One user says, "This is very eloquent and seems very accurate. Do you mind me asking how far on the other side of this you are? Was it a first episode? I hope you are healing." And then the OP responds and says, "It was my first episode that lasted about 6 months. I can work again, my memory's back, I can enjoy time with my friends. But it's like the richness of life is missing. Love music, art, nature, spirit. Like a cord has been cut between me and life. I honestly don't think there is an other side of me. Everything's just different now. I am different now. It's more of an acceptance of what is and gratitude that I can function in the world again." Another commenter says, 6 months is still quite young in recovery. It might also be worthwhile exploring if it's kicked up some other health issues if you can. Adrenal fatigue, if you're fighting back tears quite often, pseudo-bulbar effect might be kicking your arse, etc. My cortisol levels were all over the place for my first few years of recovery. I have found acupuncture and physical therapy have both been helpful for getting back into my life and body." And the OP responds and says, "The psychosis of whatever it was lasted 6 months. It has been a full year. It's just what it's like not being in it anymore." And then about 1 month later, the OP posts a post that's titled "Afterlife." And they say, "What do you think of the afterlife? The scariest part of my psychosis was that it brought me to believe I would be stuck in an eternal loop of torture in a place called the void after I pass away. I actually experienced living in this place, in this reality, for months. It was worse than any horror film. Now I am terrified of death. Sometimes I feel like I'm just waiting for my life to be over since the accident, but then what? The mystery of it all used to be so beautiful to me, but now my brain is so messed up I'm terrified of the unknown and my new belief systems. I've been very spiritual my whole life, and now prayer music, etc. is out of the question. Like my ability to connect with something greater now is non-existent and somehow doesn't apply anymore. Mostly because I experienced something that represents hell for so long, resulting in my emotions being cut off like love. It has been a whole year since I have felt love. Sorry for this little rant. Any thoughts? And then no one comments on the OP's post here, but the OP disappears for a year. But a year later, the OP comes back and with an update, and let's get into it. Update. It's almost been a year and a half since the ceremony. I am relieved to say that I have come out of the other side. I really had no hope, but gracias a Dios, it changed. It was around the year mark when I finally felt in control of my mind again and could feel emotions other than fear and anger. I'm no longer on any medication and living life again. I am well enough to work, and I'm now traveling on my own and rediscovering myself and my connections to life. I've been dancing and singing again and really pushing myself towards creativity and igniting that flame. We all have our own way through healing, and mine is definitely through dance and connections. I still don't feel as I once did, but there's been a huge acceptance of myself, and I've let go of a lot of regret. I did not do any special therapies. I actually feel I wasted a lot of money on different treatments. I just had to be patient and change my external environment for eventually the internal to change with it. I've gotten an overwhelming amount of people messaging me saying something similar has happened to them. I hope this post will help spread awareness so people can take this plant very seriously and know the risks. I also wanted to mention that what happened is no fault or doing of the shaman and the people holding the space. They do an incredible job and are very experienced. I respect and still love this community immensely. Things can go wrong no matter how well this space is being held. And this is the last we have ever heard from the OP, but God, just such a terrifying Reddit thread. I mean, I'm just happy she came out the other side and she finally feels like she is in control of her life again. But man, this could have been bad. I've read many Reddit posts of people taking whatever drug and it, triggers a psychosis of sorts, and they lose everything. They lose their mind, they go crazy, they end up in jail or passed away or etc. I've heard this was the best case scenario, but hopefully this is a lesson for a lot of you watching. If you didn't know the risks of psychedelics, now you do. It is very risky, and if you ever do partake, please just know the risks. I'm not saying they're all bad, but personally, I just think it's important for you, to just spread this kind of message, that psychedelics and really any drug use has major risks that should not be, discounted. Yeah, I'm just super glad the OP is doing better now. I hope they have continued to improve their life and get their life back together. But yeah, on to the next one. Am I the asshole for calling my best friend creepy for sleeping with my little sister? Originally posted to Am I the Asshole? And the post reads as follows. Hi Reddit, I'm honestly at a loss right now and need some outsider perspective. So my 27 female parents died in a car accident a few months ago. And now my sister, Lily, 18 female, is staying with me at my apartment. I love having Lily here. I didn't get to see her as much after I moved to the city where we're currently living in my job. It was a much smoother transition than I expected. I reintroduced her to my best friend Cole, 27 male, almost right away, and they seemed to get along fairly well. My sister's birthday was in July, and the night after it, she went to a new 18+ club that opened in our area. I didn't think much of it, and just wanted her to be safe. After that night, Lily seemed more stressed, and I assumed it was because of her first year at college coming up. She's taking online courses for the first year, and just tried to give her advice on how to handle it. Yesterday, after Cole came over to drop off some brownies he had baked, my sister came up to me with tears in her eyes and admitted that she had bumped into Cole on the night after her birthday, and they ended up sleeping together. I was shocked, but from how sad and ashamed Lily seemed, I asked if Cole had taken advantage of her. Lily said no and that it was 100% consensual, but Cole asked her to keep it a secret. Lily didn't want to stress me out and was afraid of me being mad at her, but she couldn't hold it in much longer. After reassuring Lily that I wasn't mad at her and that she was completely right for telling me, I went to my room and angrily called Cole. I yelled at him over the phone and told him how creepy it was that he had intimacy with my freshly 18-year-old sister, and that he was way too old to be messing around with girls her age. We went back and forth for a bit before finally hanging up, and I went back to talking to Lily about this. Cole told his family and our mutual friends what happened. During the night and even this morning, I have been bombarded with texts from them saying that I was an ass for calling Cole creepy, and that since it was a consensual, intimate encounter with Lily being of age, it should not matter. I haven't shown Lily the texts. I don't want to make her feel worse than she already is. With how consistent everyone has been with calling me an a-hole, I'm wondering if I really am. So, am I the asshole for calling my best friend creepy for sleeping with my little sister? Edit. Yeah, I realize I made it sound like Cole and Lily only met after our parents' death, but she has known him before. Granted, they didn't talk much to my knowledge back then since she was a kid, and I didn't include her in what I was doing very often. Edit number 2, it's just Cole's mom, dad, and brother who are harassing me about this outside of our friends, and at this point, I think that he might have twisted the story for them to get this riled up over what I said. And now let's get into some of the top comments. One user says, generally, I'm going to assume any story where a bunch of people who barely know text you to berate you is a fake story. I also think it's weird that your supposed best friend has never met your family before. And the OP responds and says, he has. He's known Lily since she was 3. I'm also close with his family, and like I said, it's our mutual friend group yelling at me for what I said. And another user says, you said in the story that you had introduced him to her when she moved in with you. Anyway, yes, if this is real, and he has really known her since she was a child, then it's creepy. And the OP responds and says, I meant reintroduced since she hasn't seen him in a while. Like I said until now, I have not really seen my sister due to my job and be decently far from where I used to live with my parents and my sister. And someone else says, 100% creepy. Also, she just had a massively traumatic event happen. He also told her to lie to you knowing that she just lost her parents. Highly manipulative and weird. He isn't a good guy. Not the asshole. And someone replies and says, also adding it's creepy AF that he asked her to keep it a secret. What the hell? He knew exactly what he was doing. Cole is not your friend, OP, and you really need to look at your circle and question those who are defending him. And someone else says, why would his family get involved? I always question the post that the OP's phone blowing up. I don't know anyone or have family members who do something so ridiculous as blow up someone's phone, but obviously there are folks out there who have nothing better to do. And someone else says, not the asshole. Edit. To those who don't seem to get how creepy this is, let me break it down for you. This young woman just lost both of her parents in a traumatic accident and had her entire life upended by having to move in with her older sibling. which means she is not only traumatized, but extremely vulnerable. That's not even to mention that not only is the person she slept 9 years her senior, he is also a close and trusted family friend who is very close to her older sister, which puts him in a position of influence over her, a position which he used to get close to her and then slept with her, literally the day that she turned 18, which by the very definition of the word is manipulative. Was she legally an adult who was able to consensually choose to have intimacy with an older man? Yes. No one is questioning her right to choose. However, her being legally able to make that choice in no way changes the fact that he is a disgusting, manipulating predator who took advantage of his position of influence over a grieving teenager in order to manipulate her to have intimacy with him, literally the day she turned 18. That's not even to mention that he obviously knew what he was doing was creepy, or they would never have asked the younger sister to lie and hide it from the OP. Is it technically legal? Yes. Is it incredibly predatory behavior and extremely creepy to sleep with someone 9 years your junior, literally on the day they turn 18? Also, definitively yes. If one of my friends had done this to my little sister, I would be absolutely furious, and they would immediately find themselves removed from my circle permanently. And then we get an update a few days later, and let's get into it. The update reads, "Hey Reddit, these past 4 days have been busy, but I'm back with an update. To start off with, I ended up talking to Lily about what happened that night, and she ended up revealing that shortly after I reintroduced Cole to her, he began texting her, saying he wanted to help her grieve. Lily had told Cole about her plan to go to that club, and by the time Cole had shown up, she was decently tipsy. Lily had woken up in Cole's bed the next morning, and after he had woken up too, he told my sister to lie about what happened by saying she was at a friend's house because I would consider it to be a betrayal of my trust if I knew they slept together. After further discussion, Lily and I decided that grief counseling was best for her. Lily said that she regretted for not getting it at the start because, to her, that's what started this. As for Cole's family and our friends, I decided to ask them what they were told by in 2 separate group chats. I was right that he didn't tell them what actually happened. Both his family were under the expression that Cole and Lily had told me already what happened at first and that I seemed okay with it. But when Lily wanted to talk further, I blew up on him out of the blue. I told them what actually happened, and while Cole's family seemed hesitant to believe me, they'd said that they would talk to Cole. As for our parents, they believed me, and while some apologized, some were saying that it shouldn't have been an issue in the first place because my sister was legal, so I had to drop those people. I have blocked Cole, and I haven't confronted him further, but I'm preparing myself for the worst when I do. Also, to clarify some things, I am a woman first of all, and second for all, I don't think Cole had ever romantically liked me the past 15 years of us being friends. There just hasn't been any signs of that, but then again, this proves that I don't know him as well as I thought, so I don't know. Thank you all for the advice, and I'll update you again if anything more comes out of this." And now let's get into some of the top comments. One user says, "I'm sorry, but I'm going to need you to clarify if that's you paraphrasing her saying she woke up in Cole's bed, or if that is exactly what she said. Because if those are her direct words, and this nearly 30-year-old man immediately jumps to 'don't tell your sister,' it makes me see red flags all over this. It sounds like he did take advantage of your sister, and that you might need to ask her a few more pressing questions about the specific events of that night to be sure. Hell, a talk with a preferably female officer, might be helpful to clarify the lines that seem a little blurred here. And the OP responds and says, I am not paraphrasing. What she initially told me when she came home after leaving Cole's apartment was that she stayed at one of her friend's place since it was so late in the night and she didn't want to wake me up. And another user says, it's creepy that their relationship started with him consoling her regarding the grief. Still feels like she was taken advantage of, emotionally, not physically, although you have no context between tipsy and her waking up in the bed. Creepy. And then the OP comes back a few days later with another update, and let's get into it. The update reads, I wanted to post an update a few days ago, but I felt emotionally and mentally exhausted. Per your guys' advice, I asked Lily if she actually remembered having intimacy with Cole, and she said that she remembered Cole buying her a drink. Then later on, Cole convinced Lily and her friend, who was tagging along with her, to let Lily go home with him. Lily remembers getting in the Uber and being inside of Cole's living room and bedroom, but not the intimacy itself. I mentioned that it's possible Cole drugged her with that drink, and if he did, then it's our word and Lily can press charges against him. Lily said if she did, she would want to press charges against Cole. We both got a bit emotional afterwards, and I apologized to Lily for not noticing that something was wrong when it first happened. As for Cole's parents, they threatened to cut him off financially if he didn't tell them the truth, and Cole admitted to what Lily said in the first post. Cole's parents apologized to me over the phone, and I told them what Lily said, and if he did drug her, then there's a possibility that we'd be pressing charges against Cole. They seemed to accept that and apologized one more time for harassing me before hanging up. Also, while clearing my phone of Cole-related things, pictures, videos, calendar dates, etc., I remembered a time when he was picking me up for a concert when we were 18 or 19. He looked at my outfit when I got into the car and mentioned how easy it would be for someone at the concert for them to rip it off and take advantage of me. I'll be honest, I was far more timid and more afraid of confrontation, so despite feeling weird about his comment, I brushed it off so we wouldn't fight over it. So there's one red flag I missed and regret not saying about it. Like I said in the last update, thank you all for your support and advice. I'll update you guys if anything major comes up. Edit. Oh, and I'm changing all of my passwords. Probably my apartment door lock too, that Cole has access to, just in case he tries anything. And now let's get into some of the top comments. One person says, Jesus Christ, saying the guy was a creep was such an understatement. He belongs in jail. And someone else says, ugh, I'm so sorry for you and your sister are having to deal with this on top of everything. I would maybe get some legal advice if you plan on moving forward with pressing charges. Also, get a R-word kit done, mainly to check for STIs, and it's most likely too late to get any DNA or other evidence, including evidence of being drugged. Depending on where you are located, I'm in the US, and from my experience, going straight to the police even a few days following the assault can lead to a never-ending he said, she said argument, and your sister will have to recant that night over and over and over again. That said, I strongly believe in justice, and it is very clear that your sister was taken advantage of. I would personally look into next steps for pressing charges. Again, I'm so sorry. And just know that people like Cole know what they're doing and how to hide their true selves from others. So none of this is your fault at all. I wish you and your sister nothing but the best. And this was the last post we had ever received from the OP. So I really wonder what ended up happening. Did the OP's ex-best friend, Cole, end up in jail or press a charge against him? Hopefully he ended up in jail. I mean, this guy is a complete creep, and who knows who else he's possibly taken advantage of, you know? I mean, if he took advantage of his best friend's little sister, he could have many more victims, which is so sad to think about. But hopefully the victims come to light and, you know, tell the police what he did, also press charges, and hopefully he goes to jail for a long, long time. And I hope that the OP and the OP's little sister are doing better now. Strangest thing that has happened in my life. Preface: this is not a creepypasta. This is not made up. I'm not trying to promote anything. I don't care about karma. I don't care about attention. Everything I'm about to write is 100% true. Last year, I went to Dubai with my girlfriend and my best friend. When you land, they give you a SIM card with a limited amount of mobile data. I didn't care about it, but my girlfriend took hers and so did my friend. They both put them in their phones and activated them, even though we kept using our regular mobile data until we got to our apartment. The first 3 days were completely normal. On the 4th day, we had our desert safari booked. The reservation was under my name, with my Romanian phone number and everything. The driver picked us up, took us into the desert, all that stuff. At one of the stops, there was a guy offering photos with a falcon. If you wanted one, you paid and he'd let you hold the bird for a picture. I politely said no. He kept insisting. Same answer. Later that night, while we were having dinner before heading back, after it had already gotten dark, the same guy came up to us again. This time, way more pushy, asking if we were really sure we didn't want a photo. Again, no thanks. We got back to the apartment, showered, went out for a walk, then came back. As crazy as this is going to sound, and again, I have absolutely no reason to make any of this up, I have nothing to gain from it, and the three of us are still confused about it to this day, but it was around 2 or 3 in the morning. We were literally watching an episode of Black Mirror when my girlfriend's phone started ringing. She answered it and put it on speaker. Nobody said anything. All we could hear was breathing, almost like a faint hissing sound. We said, "Hello?" Nothing. So we hung up. The call came to her Dubai number, the one from the SIM card she got at the airport. She had never used that number. She hadn't called anyone with it. Nobody had called her before, and she didn't even know what the number actually was. We decided to save the number and check the WhatsApp profile picture. And there is a profile picture they attached. I'm going to blur this guy's face because I don't know who this guy is, but it's a picture of, some guy. I did a reverse image search out of curiosity. It turned out to be the picture of the president of the UAE. Oh, well, then I'll unblur it. Obviously, it wasn't actually him. That's not the point. Here's the part that still creeps us out. Among the reverse image search results on Google and Yandex, there was an Instagram account that had posted that exact same picture. We opened the account and honestly, I still get goosebumps thinking about it. The last post on the account was from 3 years earlier. The profile picture was the same one as above, but the last post itself was a picture of the Falcon guy from the safari. I can say with 100% certainty that it was him. Same place we had visited, same clothes, same Falcon. We never got another call after that, and the rest of the trip was completely normal. Any thoughts? Any explanation? And now let's get into some of the top comments. One user says, maybe she'd dropped the package that the SIM came in. The phone number is often printed on it. And the OP says no. This would have been plausible if the safari trip happened the first day, but it was on the 4th. We dressed casually. Totally different from the first that we landed, so no. Another person says safari bookings, drivers, and camps share contact info aggressively for logistics, photo delivery, group chats, follow-ups, reviews, etc. Your reservation was under your name, but the driver picked you up. You were at the apartment. Passports get scanned for the SIM activation anyway. The ecosystem is leaky as hell. Many groups end up in vendor WhatsApps without realizing it. New tourist SIMs, the free/cheap DU, ones handed out on arrival, also hit spam lists or recycled contact lists extremely fast. It doesn't require hacking. It's just how the loose, commission-driven tourism machine operates. And the OP replies and says, I get what you say, very plausible, but we were staying in an Airbnb rented by someone private. No one at the accommodation asked for a passports/ID. Also, the safari trip was as well, without any passport/ID verification. The only thing where the SIM could be associated with their passport was indeed at the airport. But still not enough for the story. I don't know. Another user says, that does sound weird, but to be fair, I wonder if that's not a very commonly used picture amongst people in the region. So that you got called by a random number that happened to use that profile picture? Because when I Googled reverse searched it, I also get many random websites such as Facebook, X, and Instagram pages. Maybe the specific Instagram showed up in your reverse search results because that guy was in your vicinity? I think we'd need someone from the UAE to clarify if it's common to use that image as a profile picture. It's still a weird coincidence. Either way. And someone else says, OP has been offered a number of plausible scenarios but seems determined to deny any of them. What answer do they want? Ghosts? Assassins? Ghost assassins? And someone else says, I think your Dubai number was leaked to the weirdo somewhere. And the OP replies and says, that's what I'm thinking, but how? Or just a pure coincidence? But I guess there is a bigger chance to win the lottery than this to happen. And another user says, it's simple. They were likely tracking your movements because your girlfriend is attractive and they knew her location constantly while in country and wanted to snoop on your browsing habits while in country. Why else would the Falcon guy show up randomly later and hassle you? He didn't expect her to be accompanied by others, and he's not accustomed to being told no, and only knows how to be aggressive to get his way. Still pissed and being denied, he did a creepy, heavy breathing phone call later in the middle of the night. It's definitely a good thing she was never out of your sight while you're visiting. People go missing all the time. Creepy indeed. Also, the whole Falcon photo thing was likely a ruse to get additional photos of each of you for a governmental database. People aren't always what they seem. Not wanting the SIM and not wanting your photo taken, to them, it was fishy. And you're definitely a spy on a mission. And unfortunately, the OP has not updated us on what ended up happening or what the creepy phone call was or who the guy was or what happened. So I'm super sorry to leave you guys on a cliffhanger, but what do you guys think? I read every single comment, so comment down below what you guys think. Who do you think this guy is? Who made the phone call? How do they know where they are? And just what's the motive behind all of it? I'm interested to hear what you guys think. And all right, guys, that wraps up some insane true Reddit threads. I really appreciate you guys watching. And this video was dark, depressing, and insane. Please leave your comments down below on what you thought about today's video. I read every single comment, so please comment down below. I appreciate all of the feedback, support, criticism, whatever. I just like reading your guys' comments. And like I said, thank you guys so much for watching. From the bottom of my heart, it means the world. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. And follow my Instagram and follow me on Spotify. It really does help so much. And if you enjoyed this video, I'm sure you will enjoy some other videos on the channel. So go check out some other videos on the channel. And yeah, I just want to say once again, thank you guys so much for watching. And this was Snook, and I'll see you next time. Bye.